Good afternoon, everyone. We're back from recess. We are now doing the afternoon session, which will be about transportation, capital projects, parks, both active and passive, and recreation. So we're going to begin with you, Jared.
Eric, you need to say anything?
Now we can look at our book.
Yes, so everybody has a book in front of you. I'll tell you why I have a book. Is I didn't realize till the other day, we sit back here and stuff, and we've got 4 TVs, and I didn't realize that you only have this one TV.
Yep.
So, for everybody's viewing pleasure, I printed out the presentation. Inside of that, there's also pictures. I do not want you to advance the pictures. So this is, you got to pay attention. So don't go to the pictures. When we start to the pictures, again, in light of just having one TV, my hope was that you could have them there and they're tangible. And then also, if you want to refer to them later, you'll have them there for your purpose as well. All right. So follow along if you choose, or just watch and listen. So infrastructure plan. I know we say transportation is what we had as a heading, but I think it's going to get into infrastructure overall. We're talking about capital projects and parks. And just this morning already, we've talked about millions of dollars of projects. And we've talked about limited amounts of funds. And we've talked about major growth. So all these things combined, like how are we going to do this? So hopefully what we're going to talk about is a concept and a plan for us to take action on everything that we have in front of us. And because of that, we've got to talk about the one thing that we have going on. And we've already hit it. Hold on. Is this my clicker? We've already hit it today. Beaufort County is growing. And I would say like wildfire. I mean, we're growing like wildfires as far as the rest of the state as well. By a show of hands, how many of you have moved here to Beaufort County from somewhere greater than 50 miles away? Raise your hand, please. So a vast majority, we have a few locals on county. What about in the room? Greater than 50 miles. A vast majority of the population that lives here has moved here. And guess what? There is no magic door to shut to quit other people from moving here. They will continue to move here. We have to plan. That's what we're going to be talking about today. A few numbers. This is all as of the 2020 census. South Carolina was the 11th fastest growing state. So obviously this is a mass migration thing that is bigger than us. This has been happening. COVID accelerated this. We're seeing movement from northeast of the country down to southeast of the country and other parts of the country as well. But South Carolina is the 11th fastest growing. Beaufort County is the 7th fastest growing county in the state. So out of 46 counties, we're in the top tier as far as how fast we're growing. From 2010 to 2020, we grew at 15.3%. And our population is 187,000, which is the 10th rate. So we're still in the upper tier, maybe not quite as high as we are as a ratio of growing, but very fast to say the least. So we've all heard the saying that money is the root of all evil, right? Well, it's not. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. Well, so goes growth. Growth is not our issue. Our issue is unplanned growth. If we're not planning for growth, it's going to destroy us. If we plan for growth, we can accommodate it. And that's what I hope we do here in the future and we talk about here today. So I have an exercise for us. I was going to get you guys down. We just got done with lunch and sit you on the table and do a tabletop exercise. But in spirit of doing that, we're just going to do it here as we talk out loud to one another. But it is participation. My wife's a teacher, and participation is a grade. So if you don't participate, we'll revise and do something different. I need you to think about, a lot of you moved here for some reason. One, why did you move here? What made Beaufort County compelling? What are the components that are attractive to Beaufort County? Anybody? Yes, sir.
I moved here for retirement.
Retirement, but why? What part of retirement?
3 things. 1, better weather than where I was.
Yep.
2, access to the beaches.
Yep.
And 3, most importantly, being a car guy living in the era of muscle cars, Someday I'm not gonna drive, and where I live is golf cart accessible.
All those sounds like good reasons.
We moved here because of work and because we thought it'd be a great place to raise a family.
Okay, so community.
My wife made me move here.
Yeah. Why did your wife want to move? Why did she want to move?
I have pretty much the same reasons. A place to come that was, you didn't have to sit inside and look out the window for 8 months of the year.
That's
You
right.
could actually be outside, and when you were outside, you had all of this available. You have wildlife, foliage, beaches, dunes, trees.
Yep.
Everything that you really didn't have if you were living in decaying urban environments, which I spent most of my life in. So this was a big up for me.
Yep, makes sense. Any others? Why are the reasons you lived here?
I chose to stay here
Mm-hmm.
because it's a good place to raise a family, and I can always find something to eat if I need it.
Yep, local food.
We
Absolutely.
chose it because of the aesthetics. It's just we're blessed to be in Beaufort County. I happen to be on the island, or my wife and I, and
Yeah. Shipyard.
but the people are very nice too. We've
So people,
the aesthetics.
aesthetic, beautiful. I don't think anybody can argue with that. All right. So if we were to drill back on that and go to the next level, what projects that we could do or can do or will do in the future that play into that? So aesthetics or community or quality of life. What projects could you name that would enhance that reason why you came to Beaufort County?
Expanding access to the water. Sorry.
Expanding access to the water, so improving our boat ramps. I don't have a boat. I'm always looking for a friend with a boat. So I agree. That's a good one.
What pathways and walkways?
Pathways and walkways. All right. Outside activities.
I'm more practical. We need to take care of our transportation problems in our 170s, like a death trap.
Yep.
Bridge, those, I'm real practical. That's what's hindering some people from really accessing things and enjoying the full offerings we have.
Yep. Absolutely. So infrastructure, road network,
We need
What?
more recreation.
more recreation. Okay. All right. And that's across the entire county. Recreation. All right. What else? Any other ones that go into this, the reasons that you named? All right. So out of the projects, just a handful of projects that we named here, let's put some price tags on that. So enhance the boat ramps. What are we talking? Maybe $10, $15 million? I mean, something in that genre. $20 million? Pathways, we got a master plan for pedestrian access and bicycle pathways. One road is to put a pathway along 170. I mean, that in itself is millions and millions of dollars, let alone the rest of that master plan. So let's just, for the sense of pathways, let's say $50 million. All right. What was some other ones we heard?
Transportation.
Transportation, 170. The triangle. Does anybody know the price tag on that one, on the triangle?
Angle alone is $81 million.
No, that's 170 alone. The triangle altogether, with the triangle is 170, 278, and Argent Boulevard, improving all three of those, is $200 million. That's just one road project. We're not getting the rest of the county, just that one section. So we can say that's a lot of money. All right, and recreational projects. So new ball fields, new center. I mean, we're talking about mega millions there, $40, $50 million, maybe even more. I didn't just add all that, but just listing it out, I think we've listed $300 million plus in a matter of 5 minutes, just talking about the things that could keep up. What about how long will it take to build all that stuff? So road project, forever. We're experiencing that on 278, right? It's taking forever to build. Recreation, we got a master plan, so you got to go through all this process. So I had a feeling that some of these projects will work what you guys were going to say. So let's try to summarize this. I think where we need to go is to first create the vision and then the mission to implement. So just the first crack at this, I think what we're talking about is a long-term quality of life vision for Beaufort County. We all moved here for the aesthetics, for the weather, for the recreational facilities. So all these things are quality of life. And I think with a long-term vision, we can start marching in a forward direction in unison with one another with this in mind. So to take this one step further and turn this vision into a mission statement, which is kind of reiterating some of the things y'all just said, is to preserve and protect and enhance the quality of life that we have. So preserve and protect is, we moved here, it was great. Enhance this, we want to make sure it maintains and is great into the future. Quality of life and a sense of community. Both Mr. Glover and Ms. Howard, y'all mentioned a great place to raise a family. So a sense of community in Beaufort County. So if we use this as our kind of vision and mission statement as we talk, I think this is going to guide us into some interesting conversations. But you can't talk 2050 and vision without talking about money. So these are the typical funding sources that we have at the local government level, and specific to Beaufort County. These are kind of what you would see as ways to raise funds to generate these projects. And as your eyes filter through that list, obviously what sticks out as the most powerful tool on that list?
Sales and use tax.
Sales and use tax. $60 million a year is what our 1 penny generates, roughly. Whereas you can see the other ones, the user fee and different ones, are $3 to $5 million a year. So there's a significant difference between sales and use tax and our other opportunities. History lesson: why did the Indians in Arizona make their huts out of adobe huts? There's no magic answer. That's what they had right there. Why did the Indians in the West have teepees? Well, they had buffalo, so they could kill the buffalo and make their hut. Why do we pave our roads with granite? Granite seems like a very expensive rock material. It is for lots of parts of the world, but not in Beaufort or not in South Carolina, because we're sitting on granite, a whole rock bed of granite. So we use the resources that are local to us to best implement the capital needs. And for us, on this page, the resource that's most abundant to us is sales tax. So let's take a look at this and see how sales tax compares to other areas of the state and how we are similar or different than other areas of the state. So I know this is a really busy slide. This is from Department of Labor. This is a snapshot in time as of January 1st, 22. They haven't issued 23 yet, but I'm sure it'll be very similar. What this is doing is explaining the different sales taxes. So there's 6 different sales taxes, local sales taxes that municipalities that have been enacted by General Assembly and state statute. And those are lost, local option sales tax, which is a property relief and a capital revenue fund, transportation, capital projects, tourism development. This is a specific one. Really, the only place that's applicable is Myrtle Beach. It's got to meet certain thresholds before that's even available. Education capital and school district. And then lastly, now we have a 7th one that got approved last year, which is green space, which we are the premier county as far as being the first ones to use that penny. One thing to note, educational capital and school district are a little bit different from one another. School district is a local sales tax that's used for to offset operating costs for your school district. Education capital is just for capital improvements to school districts, but it also allows for higher education uses as well as debt, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. So, a couple of trends that we can pick off from looking at this map of many colors. Most of the counties have either 1 or 2 sales taxes. So the state sales tax is 6. So you can have from 6 as the bare minimum with 0, or 9, which is the maximum that's allowed. So 3 pennies is what you can have a maximum. Most have 1 or 2. So that right there is 85% of the counties are in that set. The most, I don't know if it's interesting, but the part that jumps off to me is, what color is Beaufort County? White. And we don't, this is again a snapshot. As of May, we will start collecting on green space. But as of January 1st, 2020, we had just fully collected our transportation, so it was no longer into effect. We have 0 sales tax. There are 4 counties, us, Oconee, Greenville, and Georgetown, that have 0 sales tax. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the other end of the pendulum, there's only 3 counties that have 3 pennies. Can you guess what those are? Charleston, and Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach, like I said, is a little bit peculiar because it's its own. Charleston, and then Jasper. We have something in common with each one of those. Obviously, Charleston and Myrtle Beach are very much tourist driven. I don't think people are not going to Charleston because there is a 9% sales tax going on in Charleston. I don't think people are not moving to Charleston because there's a 9% sales tax in Charleston. Jasper County, obviously we share a lot of things in common with Jasper County. They don't have the same tourism draw, but for whatever reason, they have 3 pennies as well. So to say that 3 pennies is something that is far-fetched or unachievable, I would beg to differ with that. And I would also beg that this is something that we should at least garner attention and explore. And I want to do that right here. So how does our penny compare? I already said that we're collecting $60 million a year. That's a lot, right? Well, we are the 10th most populated, but our penny is the 5th most powerful in the state. And you can see who we're behind. Obviously, Charleston's the biggest with 135 million, and then Horry County's up there too. But we're the 5th most. This was as of 2021, which is the last year that we had a full collection on our 2018 penny. Our first year of collection in 2019, our first fiscal year, we collected $45 million. Had we collected for about 2.5 years and we reached our $120 million. Had we fully collected the last year in 2022, we were on pace for $65 million. Our sales tax was growing at 18%. I have no earthly idea how to explain that other than local economy and COVID probably had a factor in that. And I know that's not sustainable, but it's just shocking to hear that that's how it's growing. So really we're higher than Lexington, but this is the last full fiscal year that we had data from. But per capita, how does it stack up? We have the second most powerful per capita. So Charleston has 350,000 people, but they're collecting 135. We have million, but we only have 200,000 people. So per capita, we're the second highest in the entire state. That's how powerful our penny is. Also, one thing to note is that on the per capita, you can see Charleston, Beaufort, and Horry are in the almost $300 range per person, where the next level is Lexington, Richland is in the $200 range. So those 3 places, including ourselves, are 33% higher than the rest of the state as far as the power of the collection of that penny. So again, 5th strongest and 2nd highest. So go back to this last slide. Charleston County had 3 pennies. They're collecting $135 million per penny. So every year, year in and year out, they're pumping $400 million of local investment into their community. And as of the January 1st on this slide, we are collecting 0. So to say that they're preparing and planning for their growth is an understatement. To say that we're not planning for this slide is very accurate. So same thing with Myrtle Beach. They're at, and Horry County's at 95 million. They have 2 pennies, so they're still collecting $180 million a year. And again, we're collecting 0. Just to put that in another figure, for Charleston County, that means every 2.5 years, they're pumping $1 billion into their community. That's another way to look at it. A lot of money. So what do? Do we just copy Charleston, copy and paste? Not exactly. They have some good things, but not necessarily others. One thing that we did do recently is we went out for a local option sales tax. That did not pass, but there's various ways to look at that. So the local option is one that once it's passed, it has to have a majority of petition by the citizens for it to come off. So all of things come off. It stays on there forever. Well, Charleston has a local option sales tax. So I don't think the local option sales tax gets you the most bang for your buck. There's other ways to accomplish similar benefits to that, and I think there's a different mix that nobody else in the state really has that I think would make the most important thing for us as Beaufort County. So again, to address our own community needs. So transportation, we already talked about transportation. Councilman Tabernet, you talked about 170 and everything we're working on there. We're already trending on that. We talked that last year. We had a TAC committee. We started working that up. So we already had a good idea that transportation is needed. Eric's going to be talking in just a second about our facilities master plan. Well, that facilities master plan is $300 million. That in itself is just governmental facilities for the county. That doesn't address recreational facilities, which Chuck will talk about. It doesn't address municipality facilities. So I think there's the opportunity for a capital project penny that could pay for those improvements that are so needed. And lastly, the educational penny. So rather than the school district can help pay for offsetting operating costs, the educational capital penny. So the interesting thing about this is it can pay back school debt, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail. But Ashley had a recent conversation with Dr. Penu, and he pointed me in the direction at USCB. He pointed me in the direction of Horry County. So he gave me this story, and in mid 2000s, for whatever reason, Coastal Carolina split off from USC. At the time, there was 4 affiliates. You have obviously USC and Clemson, but under USC there was USC Beaufort, USC Aiken, USC Upstate, and USC whatever it was called, Coastal Carolina beforehand. So they split off for whatever reason, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy and dissolving Coastal Carolina. Well, at that point in 2008, Horry County stepped up and they made an educational capital penny, and they made it for 15 years. And that in itself, they invested into Coastal Carolina and helped resurge Coastal Carolina. Then they also won a baseball national championship and got a lot of headlines for that, so their enrollment doubled after that. But without that investment, they would have been a sunken ship. The funny thing is, in looking up Horry County, they said 80% of it is going to go to their school district, 16% or 13% is going to go to USC or Coastal Carolina, and then 6% was going to go to their technical college. So they are the exact blueprint of Beaufort County. They have one school district, third largest school district in the state. They have one technical college, and then they have one higher education. Exact blueprint for us. So recently, they just expired on their 15-year penny. Last year, they were preparing for it to extend that penny, and they put a petition for another 15-year educational penny, and it got approved 68%. And they expect that over the next 15 years, that penny will produce $2.2 billion that they will sink into education in Horry County. So quite impressive. To say that we could do something very similar, I think is definitely in the art of the doable. So once you put all these together, they're not just 1 penny or 2 pennies, they're super pennies. They're working on something amazing. That, for us, at $60 million, that's $180 million a year that could be invested in our community. So definitely something for us to consider. So what does it look like? We've named some of the projects already, but what would those projects look like? Just to give you an idea and put some pictures of work. So this is in Hanahan. This is an amphitheater. I've been to it with my family for trunk or treat events and stuff. It is absolutely beautiful. We have plenty of settings where something like this could take place. This is a regional, I think this is a detention center, a law enforcement center. That's been something of late. So the idea that this could be paid under a penny, it's absolutely could be paid under a capital penny. This is a school district. So again, school districts in search of finding property for more schools. This could be a way for they to fund their new school programs. This is just a high-rise building. So our economic development is not going to get Volvo or Boeing. That is just not us. But to say that we couldn't have a high-rise building that had a global headquarters for some type of industry, absolutely. That's exactly what I think we could do. Port. We've talked about port and ferry and stuff. Currently, transportation doesn't allow, it's very restricted. In addition to everything we're talking about, there's also 2 pieces of legislation that we're going to try to petition our state delegates for, and one is the definition of transportation for the transportation sales tax. Right now, like I said, it's very restricted, but with all the bipartisan infrastructure bill and all the funding at the federal level, our definition at the state level needs to match the U.S. DOT level, and inside of that is ferries, mass transit, aviation, railway, all the above. So if we had the opportunity with local option sales or with local sales tax, then this is something feasible. Airport, like I said, if we expand that definition, $50 million at the airport is something that could potentially be paid through sales tax. Chairman Passman, you mentioned the port. So obviously this is in Jasper County. Not necessarily saying that we should search for things outside of our county, but with some mega millions that could be produced with these super pennies, this could definitely be something that could be invested. This is this law enforcement center. Sorry, we talked about law enforcement center. Library. I think we already have a couple libraries that are a piece of art. So this is next level. So taking our cultural buildings and really amping them up, making them unique and highlights. We've talked about recycling in the past. This is state-of-the-art equipment inside a material recovery facility. A Coliseum. So there is no place in Beaufort County for a gathering of 5,000 people or greater. So North Charleston Coliseum was built in the 90s, and they have all sorts of venues that run through there. There's no reason why that couldn't be something that we could have. Let's dream. The power of the super pennies is that the things that we thought that weren't necessarily attainable, well, maybe they are now with this type of funding. Aquatic center. We've talked about aquatic center. North of the Broad, south of the Broad. It's actually doable with the capital penny. Parking garages. This is one in Miami that doesn't necessarily look like a parking garage, but they don't have to look like an ugly old parking garage. So you can do a parking garage. I know City of Beaufort needs parking. Hilton Head probably needs parking. There's places where parking garages can fit into capital penny. So North Charleston and Charleston have a bus rapid transit system. They're fitting this into their existing infrastructure. Right now, our mass transit is pretty small, but it's going to grow. And what's happening in Charleston, they're having to retrofit a rapid transit system because they didn't plan for it. The cost of their fitting 30 miles of rapid transit from Somerville to downtown Charleston is about $1.5 billion. So we could get in front of that. We know we're growing. Let's plan for it. Parks and Rec, this is all over Chuck's area. But, I mean, obviously land is a constriction that we have in Beaufort County, but also funding. We had a Buckwalter master plan that we wanted to do the whole thing, and it came in double. So this is something that can be achieved. Pathways, you mentioned pathways, Chairman Passman. This is Reedy Falls in Greenville. People come to Greenville for this. In fact, my family has come to this just for this so we could walk over this pathway. It's beautiful. So now the idea of just completing 24 pathways in our existing 18 sales tax, let's take our pathways up a notch. Let's make them beautiful. Let's make them attractions where we can attract visitors into our town, into our community. This is TCL's training center. They want $26 million for a training center. You know what? That can be done with education sales tax. Across the street, USCB has a convocation center. It's $52 million. They're searching for funds. This can be accomplished with education sales tax. This is just beautiful waterfront in Daniel Island. So we have a ton of waterfronts, and there's no reason why we can't have all of our public-facing waterfronts to look this good or better. I love going to Daniel Island, but I'd rather go to Beaufort or Hilton or wherever else. Same thing. This is in Charleston County, I believe. This is one of their parts. So I showed this, just sidetrack for a second. I showed these pictures to my kids as I was telling them what I was talking about today. And they're like, oh, I've been there. I've been there. I've been there. Oh, that's in Charleston. That's in Greenville. They did not say one of these pictures, that's in Beaufort. And that's a shame. I mean, the fact that all these things are around, but none of them are here, is something that we should look inside of ourselves and say, you know what, this is something that we really need. And lastly, boat ramps. Somebody mentioned boat ramps. So the idea that all of our boat ramps look like Whitehall is beautiful. It is what I think every boat ramp in Beaufort County should look like. But now with the funding there, I think we could achieve that. However, I know there's going to be challenges. I'm not too naive to realize that there's going to be people that are doubt. I hear you. That sounds great. But this is the one that I hear the most. We've only constructed one turn lane in 2018 sales tax. Have anybody heard that yet? Okay, I have heard it. If I haven't heard it 10 times, I've heard it 100 times already. So, if you don't catch anything else in this presentation, this is what I want you guys to hear so you can tell constituents. The collection time on sales tax does not equal implementation time. So we collected 4 years, actually in 2.5 years. There's no way we're getting all the projects we get done in 2.5 years. And with that, I have a little bit of a history lesson. Who here knows, not allowed to answer, who here knows the first sales tax in Beaufort County, first transportation sales tax in Beaufort County?
2006.
2006. What about?
I think it's 2006 also.
Yep. I thought it was 2006 as well, until I started researching because I hadn't been here that long. The first one was in 1998. And at that time, transportation sales tax got approved in 1995. We tried in 2006, we were unsuccessful, tried again in 1998, and in 1998, Beaufort County was a trailblazer once again, just like on Green Space. We were not afraid to be bold and try transportation sales tax, and we got it approved. We did 2 years for $40 million. Does anybody know the roads that it funded? Probably not, because you didn't know the sales tax existed.
The McTier Bridge.
No, it had a bridge, but it was 170. So that $40 million we stacked up with DOT, and we were able to widen 14 miles of 170, SC 170 from Bluffton to Beaufort, including 2 bridges, 2 miles of the Broad River Bridge and the Kalawasi Bridge, all with sales tax. Again, we were the first ones in the entire state to try out transportation sales tax. The next one to try out transportation was Charleston County in 2004. That's how far in advance we were of other counties. In 2006, that was the next sales tax. Does anybody know how much that one raised and how long that lasted? Participation, guesses. 2 years?
I don't know.
It was longer than 2 years. Anybody else?
Usually 4 years usually.
It was 6 years, $152 million. But inside of that, we got some major projects done. So this here is 17 widening at Gardens Corner. At the time that this got constructed, this was one of the most deadly sections of roadway in the entire country. There had just been an accident with Marine recruits on a bus where it killed a bunch of those recruits, and this was on the national news as far as how deadly this stretch of roadway. So with our money from sales tax, we contributed. We were not the only player, but we contributed, and this was 6 miles of widening inside of Beaufort County from 21 to the Colleton County line. The next project we did was US 278. We widened 5 miles of 278 from SC 170 to Simmonsville Road. So at that point, we had 6 lanes from 170 all the way to Moss Creek Plantation. We widened 2 miles of Old Savannah Highway. So from the Broad River Bridge at SC 170 to the Paris Island Gateway, that's Parker's right there. So 2 miles that we widened from 2 lanes to 5 lanes. We added the McTier Bridge. We had the existing one. We added the second one there on the left. This was with our 2006 sales tax. We also took from Rebo Road and widened Ladies Island Drive from Rebo Road across the McTier Bridge all the way to Sea Island Parkway at Walgreens and Publix. Another 3 miles of widening from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. Back down south, we widened 4.5 miles of SC 170 from 278 down to 46 traffic circle. We made 3 new miles of Bluffton Parkway from where it ended at Burnt Church and tied it in here with the flyover at Bluffton Flyway into 278. So 3 miles of widening. This one and SC 170, we caught some ARA funds when President Obama was there. We had done an infrastructure bill, and we had ready to go projects, and we caught major funding on both of these. So a lot of grant funding in this. Boundary Street. This was the last project on 2006 sales tax. Any guesses when this project completed?
15, 14.
15? Any other guesses?
It was 17 after I got on council.
It was after you got on council. So I actually served as the project manager on the construction of this. It started in 2015 and was finished in 2019. Would anybody say that this project was not a successful project? Was it successful? Yes. But it was 2006. It was fully funded in 2012 and not finished until 2019. So 13 years after it was initiated, this project got completed. All those projects I just listed were all 2006. Most of them lasted beyond 2012. Was the program successful? Absolutely. Implementation, not the same. We have a bridge on 2018, 4 miles of widening, and the 278 bridge. This bridge, we knew was not going to be done until 2028. So the idea that we haven't got it started is not an accurate statement. The same thing with Ladies Island Corridor. So this project was 3.5 miles of improvement. It's $72 million is the price tag, and we've got $30 million. We're working through it now. And lastly is the pathways. So on every single pathway, 24 pathways that we had, has more right-of-way acquisition than the entire stretch of 278 corridor project. We have 2 right-of-way acquisitions on the corridor, and every one of these has 3 or more. These projects are just as difficult as any other transportation. So basically, we have 24 individual road projects where we got to do right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and permitting on 24 select pathways. Are we going to get them done? Absolutely. Will we get them done in 4 years? Definitely not. Will we be successful? Absolutely. So, don't let anybody tell you that we haven't been successful in implementing projects. This other statement, this is regressive. That's the first thing you're going to hear when you say 3 pennies, that's extra tax. Well, is it? Let's take a look at it. And again, with the special mix of the super pennies, this is how we can look at it. So just say in this example, a family makes $40,000. So this is the low end, $40,000, and lives in a $120,000 house. So they're a 4%er, and they live in unincorporated Beaufort County. I don't know where that $120,000 house is in Beaufort County, but let's just go with the example. So their tax bill is $714. As mentioned, education sales tax can pay back existing debt. Our school district has $350 million worth of debt. So on day one, if education sales tax was approved, they could pay off that existing debt. So right off the rip, $174 deduction. County debt. Part of our county debt could be projects that are in capital project sales tax. Again, let's just assume that half of it can get rolled back. So altogether, we're reducing this person's taxes by $187 a year in ad valorem. So their new tax bill is $526 or a 26% discount. So on the right side is, okay, well, what would that be replaced with these 3 pennies? So let's assume that $40,000 a year, disposable income is 20%, so $8,000 times the 3 additional pennies is $240 a year. So in this particular case, this is the basically lowest wage out there with the smallest house in Beaufort County. His taxes do go up, but only by $4.42 a month. That is less than 1 cup of coffee at Starbucks. And with that, they're getting this overwhelmingly large investment. All right, just to fast forward a little bit, same example, but a little bit more salary, a little bit bigger house, $500,000 house. So their taxes go down to reduction 782, and you do the math on both sides. This one is actually a decrease in taxes of $2.67. So it's nominal. It's not like the lowest is paying that much more or the higher ones are getting that much less. However, let's go back to the lowest one again. So this $40,000. So the school district has, they in 2019 went out for $350 million in bond referendum. That was approved, overwhelmingly approved. That was half of their facilities master plan. There's discussions about them going out for the rest of that half, potentially early as this November 23. If they do that, that is $700 million of debt that will be placed on ad valorem taxes. So their debt increases from the 174 on the last page to 348. So now, on day one, we could bond that money out of education, roll back the taxes, and then their bill is reduced by $361. And you compare that to the other side, it still stays the same at $240. So this individual now receives a decrease in taxes of $10.08 because of the debt increase on the school debt. Any questions on that? No, I burned through it kind of fast. All right, I've got a little bit more ground to cover, and I'll get through it. All right, this one, I've heard this one when we were doing the Tax Oversight Committee, Advisory Committee. This was one that we had. Well, the citizens don't trust local government. We can't do anything greater than 4 years or whatever the years are. Well, we just proved we have a long track record of successfully delivering projects. That is indisputable. That is why I gave you those pictures in hand, so you can go tell that constituent, look at all the projects we've done. There's basically maybe 2 roads in Beaufort County that I can think of that have been improved over the last 25 years, of which sales tax was not involved. And that's the Harbor Island Bridge, and I think the widening on Sam's Point from Walgreens to the Circle didn't have any sales tax money. Every other road that's been improved in the last 25 years had sales tax. So we are successful in delivering major infrastructure. And secondly, I think we can establish a tax advisory committee. Advisory, sorry, thank you. I couldn't get it out. Advisory committee. And this is a committee, so we did it last year. It was one and done. They made a recommendation and they disbanded. I think this is something that stays with the program, and they can stay for all three pennies potentially. So rather than have three different groups, we got one group, and every quarter we update or whatever that looks like. We can hammer that out. All right. So lastly, why the super pennies? So here's the major bullets. This is the largest feasible community investment that we have. Remember the granite in our asphalt is because it's abundantly available. It may not be cheap to do granite in Hawaii because they don't have granite. They got lava stone. So here, this is our most abundant resource. Let's use it. A large percentage, I haven't talked about this, comes from visitors. Again, that's why our per capita was so high, is because we got a lot of out-of-towners playing. Let me give you an example of what this looks like and the power of leverage. A case example in 278. So when 278 started, it was a $240 million project. It was ranged between 200 and 400, and then as they were fine-tuning it, $240 million. This was Beaufort County's project. It was our vision. DOT wasn't even on board. They weren't doing anything, and if they were doing anything, they're only going to do the one span. So we said, okay, let's go put this out to referendum. We're going to get $80 million. We knew at the time that, one, that was not the cost of the project, and two, that it was going to take longer than 4 years to build this bridge. But we did it. So we got the vision, we sold it to the public, and they said, yes, we support that. Then we took the DOT and said, hey, this is our plan, this is our vision, we got this money, will you join us? And they said, well, we got one bridge that's structurally deficient, we can contribute $40 million. So now we've got $120 million, half of the whole project cost. So then we write an application to the State Infrastructure Bank and say, hey, we've got this vision and we got this local match, will you come join us? And they said yes. At the time, we had the highest ranked application in the entire state when we applied for our infrastructure bank funding. So now we got $120 million. So we've got a fully funded project of which we put in $80 million. So for every $1 that we put in, then $2. However, this doesn't take into account to our visitors. So let's just say that, and we'll get this fact, we'll figure out exactly what this number, but let's just use 40% of the sales taxes paid by out-of-towners. So follow me with the math. I'll go through it kind of quick, but just trust me. I like math. So, all right. So 60% is paid by us residents. So 60% of $80 million is $48 million, and 48 divided by 240 is 20%. So we Beaufort County citizens are paying 20% of a $240 billion or a $250 million project. In other words, we're saying for every $1 that we put in, we're attracting $4 from somebody else. That's the power of leverage and our visitors. Other highlights. Tax is not assessed on necessities, sales tax. So housing, gas, groceries, utilities is not assessed on the basic necessities. Now, if you go to a restaurant and prepared foods, that's a different story. But groceries, unprepared foods is not taxed. As mentioned briefly, it's the same benefits but with lost, but stronger and more transparent. So we do get property tax rollback by paying off old millage or debt millage, as well as it has a sunset, whatever the years that we pick, 25 years or whatever that is. Whereas the local option sales tax, you have to get a petition of majority of residents. Sales tax growth keeps up better with inflation and population growth than property taxes. Every 5 years, we do a quadrennial reassessment of the assessed value of the properties in Beaufort County, but there's a state statute that caps that at 15%. So unless you sold your property, your taxes are only going up by 15%. My house in the last year or 2 years has gone up greater than 50%. So that is not getting realized on ad valorem taxes. However, as cost of goods cost more, so does inflation, or so does sales tax. It captures that. And as more people move to the area, sales tax captures all their spending as well. So sales tax keeps up better than property tax. And flexibility to fund known unknown projects. We know we have some transportation needs. but we don't know exactly what those needs are in the next 25 years. However, if we have a funding pot, we can be more adept and move with more fluidity to address those spots as they arise. So lastly, so this quality of life vision plan, it's not just a county program, it's a regional. This is cooperative. We have to obviously coordinate with the municipalities. Next step is lay out that vision and plan of attack to everybody. Establish a sales tax committee and coordinate with our community partners. We need help educating folks about this. And lastly, just to end with a quote. So this is one of my favorite quotes. I don't think there's many that are stronger than this as far as motivating quotes, but this is a quote by John F. Kennedy, 35th president, about space effort. And if you take out and replace the moon, go into the moon in this decade, and replace that with quality of life in our community, and you replace that with quality of life, or be the list, it reads a lot different. So let me read it to you. We choose to go to the moon in this decade. And let me back up and say it for Beaufort County. We choose to be the best place to live in the United States and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win. And I don't think that better summarizes the opportunity that we have in front of us today. So with that, I'll gladly take any comments or questions.
Excellent presentation.
Very good.
And I would say this. One of the things you said was about the 3 pennies. Potential 3 pennies. In fact, we would be talking about 2 pennies. Why do I say that? Because we're going to exchange 1 for green space. We already have 1 penny built in. So now we will have to decide, do we want to go after 1 more penny or 2 pennies? That will be our decision. Because as I started off, we know what we're going to look like in 20 years. It's your presentation that says, how do we get there? How do we get the best bang for our buck? That's my 2 cents.
There you go. I like it. Well played. Well played.
Any others?
Jared, some of the pushback that I think you'll hear from some residents is if Hilton Head is the #1 go-to destination, Beaufort County as a whole is growing one of the fastest in the nation. Why do we have to do more to attract more people? That's going to be a key pushback.
Yeah. And I think the answer is we're not attracting more people. People are coming whether we advertise or not. That's just a fact. And we need to recognize that and realize that. So what we're doing is, in order to be gridlock on our road network, or in order to have places for those people who are here to have activities to do, we're providing for those specific opportunities. We're not providing for future growth. Now, future growth will use these facilities, but if not, they're coming regardless.
Let's think about the consequences if they stop coming here. Okay, that's a key point. If people don't come here, we're going to have no economy. That is our economic development, is tourism and service industry. If people stop coming here, as those folks down on the island would like for us to pretend like we can do, our economy is not going to be much of anything.
And our treasurer eloquently pointed out, it's not one area of growth. It's not Bluffton, it's not Hilton Head. It is in the entire county that's growing and will continue that way. So all of the things that we can do to assist the quality of life by doing a transportation sales tax, by doing a capital improvement sales tax, or an educational sales tax, is going to enhance that quality of life without burdening the taxpayer. Okay.
know that was a lot, so definitely chew on it. But as you listen to presentations later in the day from Eric as we talk facilities master plan and Chuck as we talk Parks and Rec, there's a lot of need just between those two talk on money, and we really don't have a plan to get there. And I think this could be an opportunity for that. So, thank you.
Yes.
There we go. I mean, Jared, you keep really fascinating me. Like to because of your creativity.
You don't just draw straight lines.
But one of the things that sticks out here to me is the educational piece component. And USC has come here, TC has come here. The school district can be included in projects. It's almost like sitting down with them to get them to buy into that penny sales tax for their purposes, because they're going to come and they're going to come to us for money. USC's constantly coming to us, and they came to us for that center that they want to put out there. So it's really taking what you have here as a marketing tool and using it for them. And if they buy into it, we got infrastructure needs here in the county. I think that's, to me, over the next year and a half, that could be a win-win situation for the next referendum to come. It's a matter of sitting down with the universities and the school district to see if they could buy into this, as well as municipalities.
Yep.
Because they will be included in this as well, and it can be extended to a. Well, is not going to give up their penny sale tax.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's been there for years. It will probably continue, and it's a good revenue source for citizens. I talked about the reduction. The only problem I see that could happen for us is that citizens will view us as getting a slush fund and continue to raise taxes. If we can level off and show them that we're not going to be raising their taxes, but we're going to also improve our quality of life with that 1 cent sale tax. When we talked about the last 1 cent sale tax, I asked people who were in opposition to it, I said, did you know when the last penny started? They said, no. I said, did you know when it stopped? They said, no. I said, in that 2.5 year period of time, we raised $135 million. Mm-hmm. And they didn't realize that.
Yep.
I think it's a good selling tool if we can get more partners to buy into it, and we be all transparent and everybody's above board moving forward. So there is nothing underneath, no hidden agenda, but this is the quality of life improvement.
Well, and the municipalities are a key stakeholder to the education is too. One thing in the municipalities, we talk about this in engineering all the time, is view on county government is that we're the backbone, we're the structure. When you type in the airport code to go visit another place, you're not typing in the county, you're typing in, I want to go to New York, or I want to go to Charleston, or I want to go to Orlando. You're not typing in Charleston County or Orange County. And so is it with our municipalities. When you want to go somewhere, you're going to City of Beaufort. You're going to Hilton Head. You're not going to Beaufort County. But they can't collect the funds the way we can collect the funds, but we can use their vision to help our vision come together. So the roads are more stuff that we provide, but they might have more capital projects, performing arts, or whatever. So there's different one, and education, obviously, that's the one that would be interested to the school district. So they all play off one another in a package because one entity might be more attracted to one source of funding versus the other. Yep.
All right. Do we not also need to include Jasper County as we go forward, because I understand their transportation?
So I think there's an opportunity for us to coordinate with Jasper County and even potentially the other counties, Colleton and Hampton, all the ones that we share any borders with, and encourage them on a similar journey. And maybe there's some way to reciprocate to show them that, hey, this is a regional thing We understand a lot of our workforce comes from outside of our boundaries. So I think it's something for us to coordinate with those entities as we develop the thought.
Didn't Jasper?
So Jasper actually, on this, they had 3 pennies. They fully collected as of December their transportation penny, and they're considering a new transportation penny in '24. So that would be in line with our considerations.
Okay, great. Oh, I'm sorry.
He's trying.
Logan, go ahead.
You're fine. I'm the one online. You are all good. Couple things. One, Jared, your creativity continues to astound me. Time and time again, we've been having the meetings the past couple of weeks with David and myself and you and the team, about different ideas for the county. With that said, one of the things that I said in that meeting with you was I wanted to get a head start on this. I pushed for the green space. I was very surprised it passed because we did not have a lot of time to put it together. And it was very quick. We even had to call an extra meeting to get it voted on in time. I was against lost because of no end date. And I think part of it passed too, because we put it on with 2 different referendums at the same time, one for change of government, one for lost, as well as nobody really knew what the funding source was going to, because again, that got passed, I believe, in August. And we voted on in November, so not much time either. So one of the things I think if we are going to go down this road of doing this, there is still an end date. So that's something I can get behind. You're the first person to even make me waver on short-term sales taxes. And I told you that before. I don't get persuaded very easily, but you have definitely done that over our last couple meetings. So the end date is there. The funding goal is there. So I think that checks a lot of boxes for residents here in Beaufort County when we can come out and say, listen, this is more than just the simple list of projects. This is our package. This is what we have thought about doing. There is an end date. There's no petition to end it. There is a main goal for the cap on it, whatever we decide to put that on based on the algorithms we come to. My only worry is the 2 scenarios that you showed us require the county to pay off the debt, which let's say we agreed to do that. That lowers the taxes. But we would also have to rely on the school board to do that as well. Saying and doing are 2 different things. So if the school board decides to go forward with the sales tax that we put forward, but doesn't reduce the debt, then our residents are paying more. They're not getting that reduction that they're supposed to get. So I just want to make sure that, and we have time. We're starting these conversations now. If this is something we want to move forward with, I think we need to agree in the next couple months, to be honest, as a council, if this is something we want to start going forward with, because we have to go talk to municipalities. We have to go talk to the school board, and we got to iron out these little details, because if it's not everyone on board, there's no way we can get this passed. At least I don't believe so. And then lastly, whether people like it or not, we have to get Bluffton on board. And that's, Joe, Eric, or Joe, Mark, myself, and Paula. That area is going to be a huge voting area on this referendum. We're going to bring one forward. We don't know if it's going to be 1 penny, 2 penny, 3 penny, but we have to make sure that the package we build goes across the county. There's not a lot of things in Bluffton we talk about because it is growing the way it is. So, we talk about Buckwalter's already a new road, Bluffton Parkway is already a new road. Yes, we talk a ton about 278, but most of the projects we talk about are Hilton Head and Beaufort when it comes to roads. Schools, though, is in Bluffton. So I just want to figure out how we ensure that, those 4 districts that I listed on board with this, because we're going to need that support to get this across that 50% line. It's just statistics of the way the voting is going to go. So I really am on board for the idea. I think it's a lofty goal. I told you guys when I first got on, go big or go home. So I'm open and willing to advocate for this if we can come up with a plan together, all 11 of us, with your team, Jared, and the rest of the administration team to get this done. I think it's a great idea. And I think if we're progressive now, we can make the improvements without being the congestion and overgrowth of Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Greenville, but be able to still have the benefits of those areas.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move on? Ms. Howard.
This is excellent. You sure you're not a Baptist preacher?
I've
You
had
always
that.
convince me of
That's right.
whatever you're presenting. The Sales Tax Advisory Committee, I think, is key to this. I think that's a wonderful idea to keep the public educated and to go back to what Logan said, to get everyone on board and to keep it active for 15 years and report back so that we don't have these rumors like you only built one lane so far.
Yep.
It's all about educating the public on what we're doing with the money.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Great job, Gary.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks, Frank.
Okay, who's next?
Capital needs and all that.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I was kind of hoping you were going to take a break. It's a tough act to follow. Good job, Jared.
You just have to dance around it.
Only way I could do better if I had a unicorn horn and was puking rainbows, I think. I don't know. Pleasure to be with you today to talk about the capital project plan that we're working on for your budget this year. With me is Pinky Harriet. You know, she's standing behind me. She's going to be my backup if I stumble on a question or don't have an answer for some of these projects. But do I have control of this? Okay. What I want to do is just give you a brief explanation of the Capital Projects Department. It's a new department, new team for the county, and splitting it away from engineering to put more focus into the capital projects. As you've seen already today with the master facility plan and all the other plans that are in place, that there are tremendous needs for the county and projects that are rolling year after year. So this department was created in part to work through the backlog and to start moving forward with some of the implementation of our goals and visions. We have two documents that we work on and use as the basis of our program. The policy document you will see soon. We're drafting a short policy document that you will have an opportunity to forward on or provide feedback on and adopt. It basically says this is how we go about the capital planning process. It will just explain the applicability of the program, the process that we go through with selecting and identifying and selecting our projects, the process of adopting that and rolling it into the plan, and the administration of that plan after it's done. The program manual is much more detailed. We actually have that plan. It's a 2010 vintage plan that was put together by the engineering department again a number of years ago. That goes in, it rolls in the policy document as part of one of the chapters, but it goes into much more detail about the process of creating a committee, submitting projects, reviewing projects, ranking those projects, searching funding sources to implement those projects, and then it becomes a instruction guide for the capital projects department and project managers with the design, construction, and ultimately the maintenance of all the projects that come out of that plan. Some of the things we're currently working on now is obviously the implementation of the 2023 plan, the projects that are in that plan. We are a small but mighty group that is the Capital Projects Department now. We have one full-time project manager, Mark Sutton. We have Mark Rosenau, our facilities manager, that plays double duty as a capital projects manager. I'm a working manager. I got several projects of my own that I am supervising and managing those capital projects, in addition to supervising the department. And of course, Pinky is our backup. She supports us in so many ways with knowing the funding sources, making sure our record keeping is that we're implementing the plan that is in place and staying on track with that. So that's going to be our first bullet is to do that. We're currently in the process of updating the capital plan. I'm going to show you here in a moment the draft of that and kind of the framework that's going to make up the 24 plan, along to include it in the budget, excuse me. We're going to bring forward that policy document, like I said a few moments ago, and then starting in fiscal year 24, we're going to start working on that program manual and updating it. Again, it's going on 13 years old now. Oop, I hit the wrong button. With the next fiscal year, you've heard you heard Chuck and Jared both speak of the impact fee program before. Once the new impact fee program goes into the implementation phase, we will be assisting with the management and record keeping of that program. As you've heard them present before, there's a finite amount of time from spending funds, these impact fee funds, and these funds are typically for expansion of services due to growth, and it has a logical nexus with the capital improvement department for implementation. We are asking to expand staff. You'll see that when the budget comes out, to increase our capacity to do more projects faster, more in-house, and less dependence on using consultants for project management, which we are doing currently. We're doing a hybrid of both right now. And then with the planning process, as we develop this new program guide, we're going to look at the selection process and how projects are submitted, how they're ranked and scored, and what changes need to be made to that process. Not really changes, but just enhancements to the process to take into account that there are the big sexy projects, I'll call them, the bridges, the glorious roadways, the two buildings like Arthur Moore next door. And then there's the things that you just have to do. And they're not glamorous, they're not even exciting, but if you don't maintain systems in the building, roof, HVAC, etc., if you don't remodel and refresh finishes in the buildings over time, the buildings are not being maintained and they start to fall into disrepair. You'll see a lot of that in the capital plan. And again, it's just part of doing business. You have to have those resources in good condition to support the staff to do their job. So I'm going to quickly go through and I gave you this for multiple reasons. I gave it to you because as Jared's pointing out, it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but it also gives you something to refer back to. I bolded, I underlined draft. This is a draft. This is still going through the process, but we are working to develop this program, to develop this plan and get it turned in as part of the budget presentation. The process goes like this. We have a call for projects. That happened back in the fall. Department heads submitted their projects in January. We formed a committee using department heads and other representatives from departments that have capital needs to get kind of that peer group, that jury selections, as it were, to look at all the different requests from the different departments. We interviewed several departments that came in and gave presentations on their projects. And then the committee did a scoring process. And the purpose of doing this scoring process is you have all these projects that are competing for funds. Funds are going to be limited. And so we wanted to have some kind of a prioritization process to present with the budget so that as you have those limited funds, you know that you're using those funds towards the most critical, the most important projects that we have in our group. We pair that up. We're currently in the committee ranking process. We pair that up with revenue projections, and then we ultimately come up with a list of projects to go forward as the approved budget. This is a summary table of what currently is submitted. When you're looking at this, the first column is 2023. That's current. That is actual and expected to be spent by June 30th. So we think we're going to end the year with about $74 million in projects completed or underway. Well, that would be the completed portion, because any project that's incomplete, the rollover would go into 24. And you see on the fully funded top row, there are projects that we know are fully funded. They're under design, they're under construction. They may or may not get done by June 30th. They'll roll over, but it also includes new projects that are fully funded that aren't ready to start until next year. There's a large chunk of partially funded projects. We have money for design. We have money for right-of-way acquisition or land acquisition. We may have money for construction, but only for the first phase of construction. We have other phases that come after that. That falls into the category of partially funded. Anything beyond 24, is a non-funded, even though it's in the fully funded row, it's actually non-funded after 2024. And those are the anticipated needs. They stay in that column because we know what the funding source is going to be. We have it identified. But again, the budget only goes out for the 1 year or 2 years at the most. There's also a lot of special funding categories that are in the 2023 column now. Those funding sources, impact fees, passive park funding, road funding, the different sources of road funding, ATAX, those will get applied to the unfunded in those future years. So they're showing up in the unfunded category right now. $670 million plus or minus of project requests, 203 projects submitted this year. You'll see most of them on these slides. As comparison to last year, we had 137 projects at about $460 million. So the needs are continuing to grow. We are chipping away at the block, but the snowball is growing as we continue to chip away at it. I put together just a few slides because I was interested to see how it kind of broke down by department. So on the on the left, you have a table of all the different departments that submitted requests and their dollar signs. And then I did a pie chart on the right. When I did this first pie chart, there's obviously one huge piece of pie called transportation that is going to always be a big number. Jared showed you some of those needs. He showed you the size of those projects and the dollar signs associated with the projects. Roads are obviously not cheap. If you strip away that dollar sign just for a second and look at the rest of them, there's still one big, huge slice of pie. That's Parks and Rec. And again, you would expect that because they have so many needs and their facilities, their fields, their buildings, etc., have a large price tag when you're building those and expanding those and building out the master plans. And I know Chuck and Shannon are going to be speaking of that here soon. You strip away the Parks and Rec, you start to see a more even distribution of capital project requests throughout the entire county. Some departments smaller than others, but the distribution starts to look more normal. So that was interesting to me to see where the biggest chunk of money was going, and then when you strip that away, what really is getting done beyond those two big.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have the enterprise funds for solid waste and stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
No matter the funding source, they're all reflected.
Yes, ma'am. I should have stated that. All funding sources, all capital needs are in this presentation. They're not broken down by fund.
Grants or
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. And that goes back to your partial and fully funded. Some of these enterprise funds, their projects are fully funded or partially funded because they have that dedicated source.
Okay.
So the airport would be part of this too?
Airport is in this as well. Yes, sir.
What about the airport? Do you know off the top of your head what its capital projects at the airport, in both airports?
Yes, sir. And I'll have those on some slides coming up. Both Hilton Head and Ladies Island or Beaufort Executive Airport, they have projects in here for facilities, grounds, buildings, and equipment. And all those were submitted through this process and are summarized on the slide.
And the request is for revenue, from the revenue stream that the county collects. These aren't requests from anywhere else.
These are all requests regardless of funding source. Okay. As I mentioned on the slide, a couple of slides ago, we're at the committee ranking level. Right. The next step is to pair up these needs with the revenue sources. And that's when we'll go to that logical step where airport has dedicated funding sources coming from different directions. So those will get paired up with their needs and there'll be a delta, and that delta may become a request.
You do that as the airport in their submission.
That is probably going to be through the airport through finance.
So they'll tell you where they expect the revenue to come from.
I'll be working extensively with finance. Okay. Pinky and I'll be working with them to find out what the revenues are, where the source is going to be, so we can roll that into the plan and say this project's paid this way, this project paid this way, et cetera, et cetera. Till we get to a point where we have a list of unfunded projects that are ranked in priority, and you as the council makes the decision which ones to fund. Moving forward then. And I will not go over every single one of these because there is not enough time in the day to explain every one of these projects to you. But I do want to highlight just a few. These fall into two categories. As I said a second ago, these are the big sexies, or they're just big ones. The big costs are the must-haves. So you see within the current fully funded completion of the Arthur Horn complex, the administration building roof replacement, which you can hear every once in a while. And you see when you came in the building, we have the 3 pools for the Parks and Rec Department. That is an ongoing project where we are working to fix the roofs, fix the building envelopes, the HVAC systems, to correct a lot of problems that these pools have with climate control and corrosion, that sort of thing. You see those projects listed. Port Royal Library is in design. That's a new facility you've heard about. That's on the list. And then the DeFusky Ferry projects that are ARPA funded, they're in here, and you'll hear more about those, I'm sure, from Hank tomorrow. The partially funded projects, again, these are projects that they have some funding, but they may not have all the funding they need to finish design or finish construction. And there's a long list of those, as I mentioned. These are the ones that the committee has spent most of the time with prioritizing, because as these projects compete for those additional available dollars, these are ranked and prioritized so that you know which ones are kind of floating to the top. Again, I'll mention a few highlights in here. We mentioned earlier this morning about the renovation of this room here and the rest of the building. The administration building office renovations is in here. Another, I guess, if you want to put it in the category of big and sexy, is the headquarters for EMS. That's currently under design. We're building or remodeling a fire station in Sun City, as you're aware of. You mentioned the airport. There's a hangar and a runway, taxiway in this list. The construction of the material recovery facility. Jared showed a picture of one. That's definitely big. I don't know how sexy it is. It's big and stinky, but it's definitely a big project that's needed. And then, the 278 corridor improvement is another one that's on this list. You see several transportation projects on this list of partially funded that are still looking for that full funding, as Jared was presenting just a few moments ago. Then you get into the unfunded projects. There are several pages of these, and I won't do them all, but some of the, skip on my own pages. On the transportation ones, Jared mentioned many of these, so I'm not going to go over them again, but he mentioned the Triangle Project, the bridges, the 278, the 170, Island. One project that I highlighted, because it's such a large dollar amount, is road resurfacing. As a civil engineer and a transportation guy myself, the importance of resurfacing and maintaining your roads is just as critical as building the new ones and widening them and that sort of thing. So I wanted to point that out as a need that is in the transportation plan. Parks and Rec has their own slide as well, just because of the number of projects they have. You have everything from the expansion of their master plans at the Buckwalter Rec Center and the Burton Wells Rec Center. You also have community centers in here, several community centers. Again, they're not exciting projects. They're not even that noteworthy. But if you don't maintain these facilities that are community centers, and you don't keep them updated and keep them well maintained, they're going to fall in disrepair. You have several projects that are in that category where we're doing some upgrades of their systems, their roofs, their finishes, that sort of thing. And you got several of them listed there, including Lynn Brown Center. We've got that currently under design, going to bid very soon on the remodel of that building. The unfunded list continues with different departments listed out. You have the Broad River Fishing Pier, probably another one that's kind of high profile. Solid waste transfer facility gets tossed around quite a bit. That's a large ticket item that's on the list. Drainage improvements at Shell Point. That's kind of a high profile project for many reasons. Nobody likes to see flooding. Ms. Howard, that's an example. Not only is it in your district, it's an example of a stormwater utility project that they're seeking funding for through their enterprise. They continue on. Myrtle Park Building number 2 is something that's identified in the facility master plan. So that's on the unfunded list. It's something we're looking at as we go forward. How do we find that? What's the need for that? When is the need for that? And how are we going to fund that? Highway 170 corridor campus for an expansion of our administrative or law enforcement. We've had that in the master plan. We talked about that back in November, looking for a site within that corridor that can be used for such a campus. Spanish Moss Trail, pedestrian bridge. That's one of my projects that I'm pushing through bidding right now. It's not, it's a highly used trail. It's very important. It's infrastructure that's failing. Is it going to make the front page when we finish it and have a big ribbon cutting? I doubt it. But if we don't fix it, it's going to fall in and nobody's going to be able to use, the trails. So it's a very important project. And then another big price tag went on here, because I've been talking with mosquito control, is their need for a new laboratory, and that carries a hefty price tag, and it's been on the list of needs year after year. They continue on, you get into the detention center. The detention center has a lot of updates and just restoration of their current facility that they have. Some of them are safety features, some of them are security issues, and so those are showing. They show on the unfunded list, but I think it was mentioned very early this morning, they have a $1 million kind of set aside that was put there for them to help. Their needs far exceed $1 million. So we're working with them and we're ranking and prioritizing their needs. Which ones do we attack first, which ones second, third, etc. But the hits just keep coming. So Passive Parks, Stephanie's still there in the audience. She has some needs in here that go beyond what her current funding allows, and so those are identified in the plan. And then, even finishing up the list with the library system, they have needs that have been identified. Funding's not completely in place yet, but you've heard about some of those projects over the last several months.
Mr. Lawson,
Yes, sir.
two things. You mentioned the Ladies Island Hilton Head hangars.
Mm-hmm.
That's funded? Or
No.
it's not funded?
No, it's not funded, not completely funded.
Oh, okay. Then the other question, Fort Fremont, $8 million. What's that? Unfunded project, $8 million. That's.
Yeah, that may be one, when we get to the end of the presentation, if we want to pull Stephanie, maybe she can give us an answer for that one. Okay, go ahead.
So, it's $8 million actually that we've spent to date.
Oh.
With acquisition and improvements.
I got you.
And then there's probably going to be an additional $2 million that we're going to need for the year.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
All right. At this point, let me go back to a previous slide when I said draft, bold and underlined. We apparently have got a number in the wrong column on that one, so I'll work on getting that correct.
Okay.
If that is the case, we'll get with Stephanie, make sure we haven't made an error in the translation from the software to the spreadsheet.
Gotcha.
Sheriff has several projects as well. The last slides I have, and I can't speak to these with a great amount of knowledge, but this is in the hands of our fleet manager, and Todd's working on those right now. He's doing the same process with vehicles that I just explained with buildings and projects. He's looking at the needs, he's looking at the prioritizations, he's looking at what funding would be made available to him. And job as fleet manager, so I'm not going to steal his thunder and try to talk about all these, but you got 2 or 3 pages of vehicle request and equipment request. You got, again, even with vehicles, you have the things that everybody's excited to see, new shiny ambulances, that sort of thing. But then you have lawnmowers, you have pickup trucks. If the crews don't have dependable transportation, you can't even get to the job site to maintain it. So you're going to see a lot of that on this list. Airport operations, again, the funding sources will be defined at some point, whether or not I don't know which funding source that's going to be at this time, but the airport has quite a few vehicle requests and equipment requests on here. And again, you have these with you. You can look at those in more detail later. And then they continue on with everything from dump trucks to pickup trucks to, as the former stormwater manager, I remember buying the last vacuum truck. It's amazing to me that the thing's already at its end of its useful life, because I thought that was a once-in-a-lifetime purchase. But I nicknamed it Snuffleupagus. Nobody else did. But I always thought that the truck was kind of neat to have. It was a big, sexy thing for stormwater to have, and it's already at the end of its useful life, and you're looking to replace it. So it's just an example of how things don't happen, and they just don't happen one time and go away. They come reoccurring year after year, especially with equipment. So that is a draft of all of the requests that have been made. Again, 670 $670 million plus another 8 or 9 million in vehicles is far more than you're going to be able to afford. And our job as staff from this point forward until we adopt the budget is to help fine tune what our priorities need to be with the limited resources we have. Be happy to answer any questions now.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lawson, about a year or two, no, a little longer than that, a couple of years ago, we were talking about towers, emergency towers being put up throughout the county, and we were supposed to start with a few and then eventually get the whole entire county saturated with emergency towers. Where is that in?
Those are the notification towers, right? Okay.
Yeah, they were gonna have the sirens to alert us for potential tornadoes,
Right.
hurricane warnings.
Yes, sir. I remember that. Quite honestly, I don't have an update unless somebody else in the group does. If not, I'll be happy. They fall under Jared, so I'll get with Jared and Pamela Cobb, our disaster recovery coordinator, and I'll find out an answer and get it emailed out.
Yeah, she was holding up her hand back there. I don't know if she had an answer. Shannon, not, but anyway.
I remember that one, the grant ended up going away. We ended up installing those at a lot of our facilities. So we do currently have them throughout the county.
Is it?
They warn for lightning and, I mean, they
Can we get a report on that? How many we have out there?
We'll have Pamela Cobb, our disaster recovery specialist, give you all a status report on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for,
All right.
a lot of information,
Yes,
a lot
sir.
of money.
Mr. York, I hope I met your expectations of a typical engineer's presentation.
You did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Is it time for a break? Okay. We'll take a 15-minute break and we'll come back at 3:45. So we're, 2:45.
Let me go get Bill Gates or somebody.
Wherever
Okay, we're back from recess. Mr. Atkinson, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. We are on the home stretch.
Yes.
So what I have asked our staff to do in the Development and Recreation Division is to add context and support to what you've already heard today. So you heard the personnel piece, the needs, some of the challenges there. We talked about transportation needs. Jared covered a lot of the funding options and funding needs. You heard from the CIP folks. You note that a lot of stuff in my division is on that list. So what I've asked our staff to do today individually, our libraries, our passive parks, and our Parks and Rec folks, staff, to come and provide information about where we are, recent successes, and the vision for where we're going, and just to provide supporting information for what you've already got, so that we're not repeating what you already have. In addition to that, to round us out for the day, we have our Parks and Rec Master Plan Consultant, Wooden Partners, here today, and Neelay is going to join online. I believe he's in Indianapolis, somewhere where it's much colder than it is here. And he is going to give an update, a pretty detailed update they're going to give on where we stand. We're getting pretty close to wrapping that up. And instead of giving all that at one time, we thought this was a really good opportunity to sort of give a primer, where we are, where we've been, and then when we get the presentation in a few weeks, we will have already heard most of it once. So no further ado, I will ask our library director, Ms. Amanda Dickman, to please come up and provide her information. Thank you.
She already tried to schmooze the bag.
You know, librarians don't come empty-handed, so we always try to give away things for free. And so I wanted to make sure you had our latest giveaways that we provide at festivals and other outreach events that we attend to encourage all of Beaufort County guests and residents to read. So you all have a read bag. It says read on the cover of that. It has our logo on it. And the interior contents are our most up-to-date welcome aboard brochure. You'll see that it looks like a key card holder that you would get at a hotel, and that's because we wanted something very compact, very quick, that would hold that new library card and welcome somebody to joining the library system. You also have my signature peppermint. I don't brand those, I don't buy those, but I keep them stocked in my office so that people will, number one, want to visit me, and number two, enjoy that visit. So I hope today at 2 hours and 45 minutes into this afternoon section that if you need a little shot of sugar, remember that the library gave it to you. So as Chuck said, my name is Amanda, and I have had the pleasure of working for Beaufort County Library now for 16 years. This is the one library system I have worked at right out of grad school from the University of South Carolina. And for the past 2 years, I've had the pleasure of being your director. And it really is a mine, no matter what comes across my desk. So our Beaufort County Library is located in 5 locations presently. You'll see in the map next. They're across the county, spread out and planned to be somewhat equidistant and close to the population where it lives, works, and plays. We have the Downtown Beaufort Library, as well as on the second floor, the Local History, or the BDC, Beaufort District Collection Archives. In our Bluffton Library, you're very familiar with that, has recently been renovated. It opened last January with a new upfitting. Our Hilton Head Library, very close to the airport. Our Lobico Library, Mr. Dawson, in your area, and our St. Helena Library, Mr. Gulliver, in your area. We also have 2 bookmobiles, Bookmobile North and Bookmobile South, who serve respectively the northern part of the county and the southern part of the county. And we hope with your support in the years to come to expand that to better serve our population. So what makes the library special? I could stand here and give you a whole bunch of stats and figures, which I promise I will. But first I want you to see what the library does. In the top corner, you see Sun City residents waiting to board the bookmobile. You see a young reader holding an animal, a cat, dog. We have special story times throughout the year where students get to read to their favorite pet. You also see in the other corner at our St. Helena Library a local lecture, or perhaps a public meeting, maybe by your governing body or the school district or another nonprofit organization using our meeting room. Of course, in the bottom corner, we have books. We also have computers, Wi-Fi, And as I mentioned a minute ago, our local history collection, perhaps you want to look up an obituary from a long, long time ago. We can help you with that. Just want to show you that the modern library today is the only place I know in a community where Wi-Fi doesn't cost you a cup of coffee. Thank you. When you check out a book, you don't swipe your credit card. Just ask for your library card. It's the only place that offers a place to sit down. You can pull off the newspaper or a magazine and browse that. You can attend a story time with your kids or your grandkids. You can be rewarded in the summer for summer reading. And this time of year, you can have your taxes done for free by our local volunteer organizations that host that service in our libraries. The public library is way more than books, and I hope today that you see that. So here's those stats I promised you. Last year, we welcomed over 240,000 residents and guests. We have 91,618 active card holders. If you compare that to our population, that's nearly 50% of the people who live here have an active library card number. We circulated nearly 1 million items, 666,000 physical items you can hold in your hand or watch on a DVD or play in a CD player, and 162,446 digital or downloadable items. We answered 55,000 questions. That was fun and a pleasure. Our webpage received 304,000 website hits. We offered 50,000 Wi-Fi sessions. To use that in comparison to my previous example, that would be a lot of cups of coffee. We offered 13,595 computer sessions for people who needed to use our computers to access the internet. And we hosted at least 530 public meetings, not just our programs, outside public meetings by nonprofit organizations or governmental entities. So this is who uses the library. In the upper right-hand corner, you see students who are standing in front of a balloon art display at our Hilton Head Library, just completing summer reading. You see a gentleman playing music for a lecture that was held at our Bluffton Library. You see a library director in a cat costume doing story time for kids at LaVico. You see adults attending a writer workshop at the Hilton Head Library in the upper corner. You see some young readers who have dressed in their cultural costume or outfit to showcase to our larger community Hispanic heritage during. You also see a gentleman from the LaVico Library holding a pumpkin he's about to carve. You see our staff in front of the bookmobile ready to encourage people to read, and a traditional program in the bottom corner where we offer making during the Christmas holidays. So what can you do with a library card? Well, as I mentioned, we have free Wi-Fi and computer usage. We also have the best deal in town in that we provide free fax, scan, or email service. It's a self-service machine. Absolutely costs the person using it nothing to send a fax. We have meeting rooms available for nonprofit use. We offer summer reading. Our libraries serve as a summer free meal location. We also offer free tax preparation. We serve as a polling location where people can cast their ballot every once in a while when an election comes up. We offer public training and workshops on everything from canning of vegetables or other types of things to couponing, to crafts, to beekeeping, which will be at the Bluffton Library pretty soon. We also have on our shelves movies, TV series, magazines, and of course, books. In addition to the physical 5 locations and 2 bookmobiles, we also operate a digital library that makes available resources 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to all card holders. You probably have heard, and I hope you've experienced Hoopla, that has ebooks, audiobooks, movies, TV, music, and now magazines available at the touch of your app. We also offer a second app called Flips, 48 electronic or digital versions of magazines. This past year, we're very proud to have added to our collection online access to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And in the walls of our libraries, you can access Ancestry.com to do genealogy research. And if that wasn't enough, we expand beyond Beaufort County to provide access to resources in 19 counties across the state of South Carolina, including the state library itself. We participate in a consortium called South Carolina Lens. So what that means for the Beaufort County cardholder is if you need an item from your Beaufort County libraries, you can get it. But if you need an item that's in Anderson or Florence or Jasper, we can get that for you too. So I want you to hear it from the residents who use the library. My favorite one is in the middle, one of the best services from the county. These quotes were given to us voluntarily in our strategic planning process this year. Before making a decision to move to Beaufort, we checked out the library system. Very impressed. It was make or break criteria when choosing a place to retire. I think our library system is amazing. Always seeks to add programs that help inform, entertain, and educate everyone in the community. The library system is extremely valuable for students, children, parents, grandparents, adults, etc. The programs offered here are an invaluable resource for all Beaufort County residents, and perhaps the one that pulls at my heartstrings the most. My library card is one of my most treasured possessions. I am 94 years old, and the library opens up the world for me. This past year, we had some accomplishments, as if that wasn't enough. And in terms of our facilities, we completed phase 1 of Bluffton Branch Library, as you see Dr. Tabernick cutting the ribbon on that. We have replaced public computers at all of our libraries. We've upgraded the 3D printer at St. Helena Branch Library. We've added 2 vehicles to our fleet so that all branches have an opportunity to use a capital to visits to local schools or other organizations. And then we've celebrated anniversaries. In case you didn't know, the Bluffton Library is 20 years old. The St. Helena's Library just turned 10. Beaufort Branch is about to turn 30 this Saturday at a special birthday party of which you're invited. Lobico turns 20 later this summer, and Hilton Head recently turned 24. And then we also made some progress on special projects. We've increased our outreach to the Hispanic-speaking population in our community. We know that's a growing population, especially in southern Beaufort County, and we have made it a special effort to try to provide events as well as collections in Spanish language so as to meet their needs. We are in the process of hosting our first Artist in Residence program. We have a local writer, who is providing workshops out of the Hilton Head Library right now. Our Bluffton Library Park, in front of the Bluffton Library, with the help of the Bluffton Hilton Head Chamber leadership class, installed a story walk. And our benefit of that is that we get to switch out the stories every couple of weeks. And then we also issued a new e-newsletter called The Current, which goes to every single library card holder to let them know all the things their library is doing. I mentioned earlier that this past year we added access to New York Times and Wall Street Journal. We also expanded our Hoopla offerings, and then we added also about 36,000 physical items to our shelves. So the idea that your library is growing is in fact true. We also updated our strategic plan. That's available online. I encourage you to look at it. We want to be user-focused, focus also on our collections, create welcoming and accessible library spaces, and also deliver timely, relevant communication. And then lastly, how do we do even better in fiscal year 24? We want to continue to renovate our existing facilities where it's needed. We also want to continue to pursue those new library locations that are outlined in the county's comprehensive plan, and any that have come about by happenstance, such as the Port Royal Library. To do some of those things, we're going to need to increase staffing levels to accommodate the growth of our library system, which will go in line with pursuing our goals in our strategic plan, ultimately to increase community awareness, engagement, and utilization of the free library services. I end every presentation with this slide, which pretty much says, if you haven't already considered having a Beaufort County Library in your walk, it will be the smartest decision you've ever made, and it would be my pleasure to sign you up. My name is Amanda, and this is how you may reach me. I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Quick one. Your online access to the Times and Journal, is that from the equipment in your library?
No, sir, but I do encourage you to go through our website to do it. The way that it knows that it's free, and under our subscription is just a click through our website. So BeaufortCountyLibrary.org and the New York Times button there.
So people who have library cards,
It actually doesn't require a library card, Josh, isn't that right?
and you can access.
You just click it
from
through our-
home through those things. So at the library, when people come to use it, though, they can access it there as well. How many, on average, pieces of equipment do you have in each library for people can use to access those things while they're there in the library?
While we're there, we, depending on the size of each library, the number of computers varies, but we have anywhere from 7, 8 at downtown Beaufort to 10, 12 at Bluffton.
Do you find that to be sufficient?
It has been.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
It's a loaded question because I know this. Very exciting that Port Royal's coming on, and like you said, that was kind of a lucky deal, but we're very happy to have it. My second thought is, and I'm sure you have info, why we need a branch in Pritchardville. Because people say we have one in Bluffton, why do you need another one? And it goes in line with all the things we talked about today, the growth, but can you speak to that? Because that's a hot item on the table for council.
Sure. Now, we could talk about that for a long, long time, but the Cliff Notes version of that is that in the area that you're aware, we've been searching for land, just in that one stretch between 278 and Highway 46, there are over 13,000 residents. And each one of those has to drive 10 miles to get to the Bluffton Library. Well, we know that that's 10 miles on the surface, but 10 miles in actuality can be 30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic. We already know that there's an active interest in that. It's also supported by our strategic plan comments. Over 100 comments were related to why was the New Riverside Library or the Pritchardville Library removed. The public perception is that a library in that area is not supported, even though it is desired. The library has a plan in 2010, and it's on the 2040 plan now. And population continues to explode in that area. We know that based on anecdotal evidence by residents in the area that they want it, they'd like to see it there. And we know from the usage statistics of the Bluffton Branch Library that the Bluffton Library is stretched to accommodate the population in Bluffton proper, as well as the population that has expanded towards Pritchardville, New Riverside, and also all the way up to Hardyville.
And the Bluffton Library has the largest usage of patrons coming in and so on.
Historically, it has. Neck and neck this past year with Hilton Head in that for partial of the last fiscal year, Bluffton stats were a little downplayed given the fact they were closed for renovation. Not fully closed, but their meeting rooms and different things definitely curtailed usage of that branch during that time.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Enjoy your peppermint and the rest of your afternoon.
Very good. Thank you, Amanda. I'd like to invite Stephanie Majid to come speak briefly about our passive growth program.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think so.
Of course.
Jasper.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, excuse me, do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, or Amanda, the question was, must you be a resident of Beaufort County to get a library card? You want to explain how a Jasper County could get it?
Sure.
Okay, you got it, but it costs you.
With our partnership in South Carolina Lens Consortium, a resident in Jasper County can use their Allendale, Hampton, Jasper regional card to check out physical items. The only thing, from our branches, I should be specific about that, or bookmobile. The only thing that their card doesn't allow that Beaufort County cardholders can access is digital resources, and that has to do with how those vendors bill us for that. So if a person living in Jasper County wanted to utilize physical and digital things that Beaufort County cardholders can access, they can get an out-of-county card, which is still cheaper than Amazon. But they can use physical items from our branches or bookmobiles using their Jasper County card.
And it's $45 still.
I believe that is correct. I can double check on our website.
And I believe the fee was set to mirror what a resident pays into the library taxes.
Got it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Hi.
Hello, Stephanie.
Hi. Hello, Mr.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Najid. I'm Passive Parks Manager, and I was actually very interested to hear what you had to say during Jared's lovely speech regarding why you came here and why you like Beaufort County. And the things that I picked up were nature, wildlife, and outdoor activities. And I have the amazing job of managing and maintaining rural and critical lands that the county has purchased fee simple for exactly those things. So something I wanted to just start with a brief national statistic is something I don't think many people know. Outdoor recreation contributed 2% of the national GDP in 2021. That is above vehicle sales and oil and gas. So it is a very high demand national activity, and definitely is a spotlight and a great opportunity for Beaufort County. You will also hear coming up, I'm not going to take anybody's thunder, but there was a Parks and Recreation survey, and passive recreation and hiking trails were in top of the respondents for things that they wanted to see in Beaufort County. So that will get elaborated on later, but also ties into the Passive Parks program. So 5 years ago, March exactly, 5 years ago, I was hired to create public access opportunities and passive recreation outdoor opportunities for the properties that were acquired through the Rural and Critical program, and was created by County Council at that time as the Passive Parks program. Currently, we have over or just under 14,000 acres of land in that program, in the program that I manage and maintain. That is encompassed in 50 different individual properties. 14 of those are actually open to the public right now. We have 4 upcoming new passive parks that you'll see highlighted here shortly. That also includes 14 different interagency agreements that I have to manage and cooperate with other outside entities like the towns, the cities, Marine Corps Air Station, state DNR. We have 11 lease agreements with private and government agencies, 17 use agreements with different private entities, typically nonprofit individuals. There are 2 organized friends groups that we currently have that did come up in the last 5 years. We also have an additional friends group that has just reached out today for property. And all of this done up until July 1st last year with just me. And then as of July last year, I was able to hire a park ranger. So now we have 2 staff to accomplish all of these things. We also have in the upcoming year slightly less than $3 million in rural and critical bond funding. When I first was brought on board, there is no line item for me in the general revenue. You'll see as of up until this budget season, there is nothing for passive parks except for in the rural and critical bond. So that was a challenge to try and accomplish what has been able to be accomplished with the bond, with just having that bond funding. But we do have just slightly under $3 million that is going to be spent probably by the end of calendar year next. So some of the successes we've had to date, we were able to open up Widgeon Point Preserve. We did spend about almost $1.3 million on that property to have a beautiful hiking trail, lots of people out there bird watching. It's got a picnic pavilion, bird blind, and some portable toilet restroom shelter. We also were able to finish the loop trail around Crystal Lake Park. So there is a trail that goes completely around the lake out there. Prior to me coming on board, there was some renovations done to an office building there. So my office and one of our tenants is in that office space. And we spent about $400,000 on that trail. The Fort Frederick Heritage Preserve is in the town of Port Royal. We spent just over $1 million on that, and that was in combination with South Carolina DNR. They put out some interpretive signs for the fort there, Fort Ruins. And then we developed the access and the parking in the picnic pavilion. Also looking to the future to do a pier and dock out there too. We also were able to spend almost 1.7 million at Fort Fremont Preserve for the History Center. So we do have a large history center there that has a great diorama. It's got a conference room, there's restrooms, there's ADA sidewalks so people can view the fort. We have interpretive signage, and the Friends of Fort Fremont man the history center at certain hours. And as they build their volunteer capacity, they're opening it up for more hours, more days, more often. So in March, we actually are going to be open for 3 days of the week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with the Friends volunteering there to provide interpretive tours, docent tours, and interact with the public. Some things we have coming soon, as in the next year, the next 12 months. Whitehall Park is just about to be opened. We are in the final stretch. It is close to $1.8 million for the completion of that project. It includes parking area, entrance gate, multi-use pathway that connects to the existing boardwalk that goes onto Woods Memorial Bridge so people can go from downtown to Meridian and back. Picnic pavilion with restrooms and drinking fountains as well. We have Forge Shell Ring down on Hilton Head coming up. It's going to be a little over $200,000 to do a very simple hiking trail, an interpretive sign, and small parking area so people can enjoy the 4,000-year-old archaeological site that's there. We have Bailey Memorial Park in Bluffton. That is going to have roughly $750,000 of improvements, including parking and parking for golf carts, as well as trails and wildlife blinds through the wetlands in the area. That is in the Alljoy community. And then in Okeetee River Park, also in the Bluffton Okeetee area, almost $2 million for a multi-use trail, parking, and a picnic pavilion as well. Also right there on the headwaters of the Okeetee River, so it's a beautiful scenic view. So as you can see, all of these properties, previous successes and coming soon, even for passive recreation, we're looking at about $2 million, $1.5 million to $2 million for full planning, permitting, and then development of these properties with just the simplest improvements to be able to open access and get people out into nature. So some of the future needs. One of my goals 5 years ago was in 5 years create a passive parks department. And so that's what we are coming to this budget season with for start of fiscal year 24, is to actually create a departmental operating budget in the general revenue. So that's going to be roughly $400,000 to be added as a new department. We also have lots of different land management activities that we have to do. When you buy land, you can't just let it sit. It does become a hazard. So things like vegetation management, timber management, wildlife and plant and animal surveys, so we know what to tell people that what's on the property, how to engage them in the conservation of the property, how to encourage young minds to be mindful of what they do in nature. We need to be able to know what's on the property, and you know, bald eagles at Widgeon Point are a huge draw. So if we didn't do surveys on the land, then it would be very difficult to explain to people, why are these places important for you to want to protect them? We also want to start things like prescribed burning, have a prescribed burn program through the South Carolina Forestry Department, and also interact more with South Carolina DNR and see if there's any other hunting opportunities available on potential large purchases of land. That is not going to occur on many properties, but there is an opportunity for that in this area, and a definite desire by some of the public to have that occur. So in order to accomplish all that, we do need some increase in staffing and vehicles. The fiscal year 24 budget, I'm going to ask for a passive parks naturalist to add to our staff of 2. So we will have a staff of 3. That naturalist position is going to do mainly focus on environmental education. I want to create an accredited environmental education program. There's a national standard. And so hopefully that person will be able to create a program and work us through that. That person is also going to coordinate more with volunteers and the friends groups and get more volunteers and more engagement in the community instead of just having something passively opened. We want to engage the community to actively engage with parks. And then maintenance will also require additional park rangers, whether that's hired through my department or Parks and Recreation. I do rely on other departments at this time to assist in a lot of the maintenance responsibilities of these properties, as far as mowing grass, picking up trash, blowing off boardwalks and sidewalks. So we will need some additional maintenance folks, especially as more properties come on board. Some priority passive park projects coming up include New Riverside Regional Preserve. This is a piece of property that has a significant donation of funds. So when I was first hired, it was one of the very first conceptual plans I created. The engineer's estimate 5 years ago was $7 million. I'm assuming that's going up in price. And the reason for that is because it includes the addition of a, I think, slightly over half-mile long road to get from New Riverside Drive to our actual property. So for the last 5 years, the county has been in several discussions with adjacent landowners to try and get that road built. So we're still continuing those discussions. Whitehall Park does need a pier and a dock, so I'm hoping we'll be able to get that done very soon. Pineview Preserve has a conceptual plan. We're in phase 2 planning right now, and hopefully we can get some funding to accomplish that. And that's on Ladies Island. There are some safety and security things happening at Fort Fremont regarding stairs and railings and fencing to make the fort safer for visitors. So we'll have some of those projects hopefully starting soon too. And then I have various conceptual plans in and around property, small pieces of property that we own adjacent to boat landings. So in conjunction with Jared's boat landing study, we can develop a nice little park at Station Creek, which is next to Buddy and Zoo, and at Jenkins Creek property, which is next to the Eddings Point boat landing. So hopefully there'll be some coordination between our departments so we can make those boat landings more of a park experience and not just a place for people to go dump in a boat. Hopefully, you boat back and enjoy the scenery and, bird watch at the same time. Bermuda Bluff, also on St. Helena Island, is another one of those too. So those are just the tier 1 and 2 properties. I also still have 14 other tier 3 properties, which are properties that currently have no plan, no community survey. They're vacant land that's ready to be open to the public. We just need a vision and money. So it is definitely a long-term plan. I have, when I first started, created a long-term work plan, and those properties are included in that plan. They're just a lower priority due to various factors such as interest, funding, and partnerships. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions. First and foremost, Pineview, you said you're in stage 2 planning right now. Can you kind of tell me what the next steps for that look like?
Yes, so Pineview Phase 2 planning includes creating the civil drawings, and then with that civil drawing of basically the parking area, the restrooms, and the trail, I can use that plan to go and try and get grant funding. We can kind of capital funding requests we have.
Okay, and the next question I have, you said you have approximately 50 properties.
Yes.
With 14 open to the public. Why aren't the other ones open to the public? Do they just not have boardwalks or?
There's no access. It's just vacant land on the side of a road. So
is there anything wrong with letting the public go on those? Like a kind of enter at your own risk thing?
There's no way to enforce any, like if somebody starts a fire, that would be a hazard to the neighbors. It would be a hazard for us, as far as liability and insurance reasons. And so those properties are closed to the public until such time as we have a safe way of providing access.
We can't tell people they can't go on there, but we shouldn't tell people they can either.
Right. So I'm curious why public
Yeah, if they go on it at their own risk, then, you know, we're not going to send the police out there or anything to pull them off of us.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, quickly, the Okatee Park Preserve, is that the one that has the, would be connected to the, that's Pepper Hall?
Yes.
Oh,
There's several Okatee parks. There's the Okatee River Park is the one at the Pepper Hall development. And then there's the Okatee Regional Preserve that you just approved for the Old Growth Forest Network. And that is one of the 14 that is not yet open to the public. And then there's also Okatee Marsh, which is the one behind the animal shelter.
okay. One that we just approved for the old trees.
Yes.
Okay. Is that, at one time we talked about connecting that to the Grays property.
The Okatee River Park.
Yeah, is that possible, or would that be possible? As far as a pathway of some sort?
We would have to coordinate with DOT in order to see if there's a way to put a boardwalk or path under the bridge there at the river. It's something that I'm planning on looking into, but I'm just not sure if it can happen.
It should be great to have that connection, I think,
Yes.
yeah, especially with the the over trees and stuff, and parking one place and then walking.
Yes.
To me, that would be a natural habitat to really travel.
I agree.
Question?
Yes.
I don't have a question, Stephanie. I just want to take a minute to congratulate you and applaud you for the work you do with that staff of hundreds that you have.
Thank you.
Diligent, discipline, you get it all done, and the results you've achieved are remarkable, so congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, I would like to invite Shannon Loper, our our active Parks and Rec, a lot of parks, up. She's going to share some context for our active recreation programs and where we are with that, and then introduce our master plan consultant.
Good afternoon. Mine should be kept it quick with the master plan. Go to it. Where do I click it at? Just over? Okay. Okay, so I'll start with one of our larger growing programs that we started this past fiscal year is our senior program. And as you can see, when we took it over from Council on Aging, we had two original centers, which were Burton Wells and St. Helena. Since when we took it over, we opened it up countywide. And as you can see, these are our current numbers of our seniors in the programs. Bluffton, we have 64, Booker T 48, Burton Wells 57, Port Royal 50, Scott Center 22, and St. Helena Center 39. So it's growing rather quickly. The next is just, I put up some pictures to show you guys what, some of the activities they do. The seniors meet every day at each center, Monday through Friday. We take them on field trips to the fair. We do cooking activities with them, the pumpkin patch, the farmers markets. We have one of our oldest seniors in Bluffton that turned 104 this year. These were individual Christmas parties at each of the centers that we did. And then we had a large Christmas party for all of the centers at Burton Wells. Currently at our centers, we provide food that we partner with Low Country Council of Governments, LOCOG, And we have a $500,000 grant through them that we provide food at Bluffton, Burton Wells, and St. Helena. Food is currently not provided at Booker T, Port Royal, and Scott. And when I say not provided, it's not provided by LOCOG. We actually purchase that food, and the staff there has to prepare it and fix it for the seniors. We reached out to LOCOG, who was a little surprised that we grew as rapidly as we did, and we'll be out of funding for our food at our other centers by the end of this month, the first of next month. And so then we'll start providing the food for those centers as well.
I don't want you all to underestimate the impact that what Shannon and her team has done with the senior programming in this county has had for them. The growth in those programs since we've taken it back over has been phenomenal. We're getting a lot of positive feedback about that. It's a testament to what Shannon has done with setting up that program and taking it back over. I'm very proud of the fact that we've done that. The fact that we're already spent the budget for food, I think shows you all that we're meeting a need in the community for this aspect of our population. And it's one of the things that I'm proudest of as county administrator, that and the Regional Housing Trust Fund, of course, that we've been able to take back over and establish. And I just want to make sure that I commend Shannon and the folks at Parks and Rec facilities for the job that they're doing with that program.
Thank you. And I'll say thanks. Eric's been great. You know, I went to him a few times and said, hey, we're going to run out of money. Don't worry about it. We're going to get it done. So it has been a great program. Summer camps last year, it's at Lynn Brown and Bluffton Center. This year we have them out for Booker T, Broomfield, Burton Wells, Dale, Gloria Potts, Port Royal, and Scott Center, as well as Bluffton Center. So we hope to have summer camp at each of the centers throughout the county this year. With that said, we will be putting in the budget to request another position to assist our programs manager with the seniors and the summer camp as she handles both of those programs. Have any questions with those programs?
The summer camp program, I saw the ad for the employees in the county. Is it going to go beyond that?
So we started it out after talking with Eric about it. We started it out that we advertised it for our county employees. Then we're going out to the local municipalities, and then we're going to do a lottery system for the public.
Wonderful. That's great. Yeah.
Any others?
I just want to echo what Mr. Greenway said. I've not heard any negative comments about the senior program. I would tell you that they are very pleased to be up and running, and after COVID, they're really elated to be just back out there.
They are very, yes.
I just want to thank you, because if they were not okay with the program, my phone would been ringing. So
yeah. Well, we enjoy them too. The seniors are great. They're a lot of fun.
Well, if I might add to that, I visited the Burton Wells Center on several occasions, I think about 3 times, and to see the excitement and the jubilancy of the seniors as they interact with each other, the times that I've been there, it shows that the program has been revamped, and you guys have done an excellent job of revitalizing that program to the point where the seniors are looking forward to coming and spending their day there at Burton Wells. I hadn't been out to the Booker T. Washington Center yet, but hopefully I'll get around there, if not before a week, maybe next week. But to see the program and the state that it is now versus before you partnered with LCOG, I mean, we were struggling.
Yes.
And the morale and the atmosphere wasn't that pleasant as it is now. So I commend the administration, I commend you and your staff for
Thank you.
all the work that you do. And if there's anything that we can do as council to help foster that relationship between you and your seniors, then let us know.
We're going to put in, we'll put in a lot more money for the senior program in the budget this year, mainly because we have found that it is an important program. It is important to keep them exercising, keep their minds sharp, and we hope to grow it even more. So, it's a great program. It's nice to be able to now serve the community from 4-year-olds all the way up to 104-year-olds. So it is great.
Just quickly, no, go ahead.
Go ahead. Shannon, what time do the seniors come and how late do they stay?
So we kind of did a survey with each of the centers, but on average, they come from 9 to 10 and stay from 2 to 3.
They arrive between 9 to 10 and stay till 2 to 3.
Right.
So you just serve, what are you serving them as far as food? Just the lunch service?
So with LCOG, they have a partnership with a food program, Senior Catering, that comes out of Orangeburg that brings the food. So they get served different meals. Whether it's a full dairy and nutritional meal with the meat, the vegetables, the starches and all. We also have snacks and stuff. We provide coffee, lemonade, and things like that for them. But we make sure that calendars come to me each month, and I make sure that there's a couple of crafts on there. They do field trips. We make sure that they have different games. They play trivia with them. They do they do chair exercise with them. Each of the centers, we've purchased a treadmill for them so that they're the senior treadmills that they can hold on to and walk. So we make sure that they're able to do a lot of different things.
If they would like to get it, can they have a breakfast and lunch service before they go home?
That would be something that we would need to budget for, but
So
yes.
you don't do that now?
We don't do that now.
Oh, okay, thanks. That's a great program. Congratulations.
But if you all would like for us to consider doing that, that's what this is
Well, I was
for.
just
Right,
trying to find out
yes.
what the service was. If it's one meal at this point.
And I'll be honest with you, I'll be, 100% honest with you. Some of them do rely on that meal. They really do, and, I did a survey with them and, asked, what can we do to help you? Because, I wanted each of them to know if there was one of them that needed help on the side, let us know because we will step up and help you. So, a lot of them do. They rely on it.
Okay.
I'm just curious, you said you took a field trip to the state fair in Columbia?
They've gone to the fair. They've gone. They did the Festival of Lights this year. They've gone to museums in Savannah. They go. We make sure that they go on their field trips, and we're now even planning to try to give them options of hopefully some more long distance field trips. Now that we have a couple of buses.
Shannon,
Oh, yeah, sorry, I did forget that. So we do have, in addition to our meals that are served inside of our centers, we also on Fridays partner with LOCOG and we service the community with frozen meals. So those that are homebound and can't get out, we deliver meals for the week for them. And so we have a bunch of part-time staff that goes out and to different routes throughout the county. I think that, I don't even remember what storm it was this year that we were told, we're closed, we got to shelter in. And myself and my staff spent the day out, making sure that those meals got out to all of them as well.
Shannon, if I might, speaking of the seniors, and we know they're aging, you got a 104-year-old in the group. For some of them, getting on and off of the bus, having to step up those steps are problematic. Where are we with the upgrade of a vehicle where they can actually just go through the side door without having to walk up those steps?
So the two new buses that we purchased have the ramps that come down. The issue that we're running into right now is CDL drivers. And the fact that I was hoping that someone was going to be able to come in and do that. But in order to get enough drivers, the last one I checked into was over $6,000 an individual to get a CDL training. And I mean, we need, actually one at each center plus a couple of backups, when they're out. So that would be close to $60,000 that we would need to put in the budget to do that. I was hoping for that amount of money that we could hire somebody privately to maybe come in, but we haven't been successful in doing that. We also did this year ask for 3 new vans because last year the vans that Eric gave us the money for, we ended up using for the buses because we were in more of a desperate need for that. But we are going to ask for 3 this year and then 3 more again next year, hopefully with for them to go down and pick the seniors up. The seniors, some of them do like the smaller buses, some of them do like the vans. But the newer vans that we did get, they were used, but both of them have the wheelchair access and that actually so that the wheelchairs can be locked in the vans for transportation. So on to aquatics. With our aquatics, we, with the pools being redone, the Bluffton pool with the roof that was redone, we were able to add, now we have the inflatables. So we have a set of inflatables north of the Broad and a set of inflatables south of the Broad. This has been a very popular thing on Saturdays that we do. It's $5. The kids can come in, bounce on the inflatables, swim, do the obstacle course. They've been picked up on for birthday parties. So once we close in the afternoon on Saturdays, we have had quite a few rentals for the birthday parties on Saturday afternoon, private birthday parties. So it's been very successful with our aquatics. Any questions on the
I'd
aquatics?
just like to make a comment. My grandchildren love the one at Battery Creek. It wears them out.
Yeah.
So.
This, I just kind of flew up there. I've got our Beaufort numbers as well as our Bluffton numbers. I can get this out to everyone, but basically just to show the growth that we're experiencing in our youth and adult sports. We haven't slowed up. The slowest that we had was through COVID. But other than that, each year we have added, not only have we added sports, but we have added people. I think it was the last council meeting that had mentioned that we grew just in basketball this year by 25 teams. So you'll see a little bit of increase in as far as the uniforms and official money because of the officials and stuff. But we are steady growing and are going to be more and more and more of need of facilities. Questions on the athletics?
I have a question, please. This just includes the programs you offer for athletics. This does not include use of our fields by schools, correct?
Correct.
So I'm sorry to ask this question, but in light of what I just went through with you and Chuck, why do we charge our schools to use our fields? And I realize it's a budget issue. I don't know how much it is, but if we want to be collaborative with our school district, and they should be collaborative with us, and when we say it's a two-way street, I'm just curious why we charge for them.
So we actually don't charge for the use of the fields. The only thing that we, when Brittany and I sat down and negotiated with the school actually charges us, and they charge us regular price because we were told that it's up to each individual principal at the school. So the 1 year that we asked to use the fields for our championship football games, we were going to have to pay over $3,000 for use of the 2 fields. We sat down, the contract had expired, and went back to the school district and said, we're going to continue to not charge you. What we want to charge for is materials. So, for instance, our guys line the fields for them. We don't charge for lining the fields, but we charge for the chalk that we use to line the fields. We don't charge for the bathrooms, but we put in money for toiletries. We put in money just for the bases, because what we were doing is we were having to buy a set of bases or pitching rubbers et cetera, for the fields. And then it was coming out of our budget for someone else to use, and it needed to be replaced by the end of their seasons. So that's the only thing we actually charge for. We don't charge for any use of the fields. We only charge for the cost that we take in from the schools.
I do want to add, so this is one small piece of a very large conversation. And we had a call with our master plan consultant last week in preparation for this meeting, and we spent a large portion of that time talking about field usage and geographical location throughout the county. And if you look at the total number of fields, you're going to see one answer that meets capacity. However, we have a number of charter schools, and we have a number of private schools who use our fields. They start programs, don't have fields, and then after they started their programs, they come to us and want to use the fields. So at some point, we have to say, you have to pay your fair share because these schools are funded, publicly funded. We have to recoup that somehow. Otherwise, the Parks and Rec Department winds up funding their athletics programs, in part, at least. So if they are playing a game, they have to use of the field because we have to prep it. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into that. What we're charging them for is just to offset what it cost us to line the fields for the practices. So again, it's very involved. It has to do with, how many fields, where they're located, how far they're willing to travel. I will say this, we're doing everything that we can do to help accommodate all of those requests, and the amount of money that they're paying is minimal. It's a few $100s a year.
That's why, I'm not going to speak about charter schools or private schools. I'm just going to talk about Beaufort County Public Schools. Because it is minimal, I don't know why we're charging it all, is my question.
The short answer is
just for good relationship.
The short answer is it's part of our contract that we have with them, and partly that's what they wanted to do, because if we need to use their fields, correct me if I'm wrong, we still get charged for it. Yeah, so we're happy to do it as long as it's fair on both sides of the coin, but again, much larger conversation.
So we might get to someday where we don't charge them and they don't charge us.
Perhaps.
In a nice world.
Perhaps, but what I would prefer is that everybody build capacity for their programs.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I'd like to go with.
I
hope that.
Again, Mr. Atkinson, it really is directed at you. So, talking about use of facilities. When they were raising St. Helena Comprehensive School for the new facility that's there now, the community actually went to the school board and asked them to save the gym for community activities, etc. That gym is old. It's probably need a lot of renovation, etc., etc. But is there any way that the community can get access to their gym through some type of memorandum of understanding with the school district? It's not being used. I don't think the school district is actually using it, but I think the community could really benefit from that use of that gym. So I'm just wondering, and I'm not asking you for a definitive answer at this time, but I'm raising that because it's there. The community always wanted it, and it's not being used at all at this time. And I think that's a shame that we have that kind of. It's an old facility, but we have that, and if nothing else, we could have some basketballs or something for our community kids to be using and stuff like that. So,
that's a great point, and I will. At the last Parks and Rec board meeting, that specific topic came up, and what we told the board is that we're going to have that discussion. Unfortunately, with the divide between the school district properties and what their rules are about use of their facilities and public use of those facilities and mixing children in public and times and all that stuff, I can't answer how they're going to respond, but we are going to have that discussion with them, yes.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, Kenny Mack, he's got someone that he was gonna talk to, because I told him that if he could work something out with it. He had talked to someone about it, that I would put a part-time staff out there to open up a few evenings a week.
Oh, good.
We will have that discussion. I'll have that discussion with Dr. Rodriguez now that I know about it and see what we can do to enter into an agreement with them. Sounds like some money is going to have to be invested in the facility. So we'll investigate that. And going back to your question about the cost of the fields, you know, this is, and their staff is not aware of what I'm getting ready to say. When it comes to charging other public entities that collect tax money to do things, in my mind, you're just transferring the tax money from one pot of tax money to another pot of tax money. So if you all as council want us to reevaluate what we're charging the school system for prepping these fields and things like that, it is a service that Parks and Rec is a service that the county has decided to provide to the citizens of the county, whether they're regular citizens or part of a school program. If you all desire for us to look into that and see if there's some modifications we can make to that, again, that's the purpose of today, is for you all to give us that direction so that we can go see what we can do to accomplish the goals that you would like to see carried out for the coming year.
Well, that's pretty much why I brought it up. If council agrees, I think we should look into it, because you're right, they're already paying taxes. They are part of our school district. We should be collaborating and supporting them, and I get it, we support them, but I'm not sure why, if they're minimal fees, why we even do that. In a gesture of goodwill, we could eliminate those fees. I don't know how much of the budget it is, though.
We'll look into it.
Yeah,
If anyone else is on board with that.
I'm with you.
and there used to not be any fees for that. A lot of that came from them asking us, would we do that? Because that prevented them from having to buy equipment, buy the chalk and all that. So they asked us, would we do it? And we just said $25 minimum. And that's for 2 guys, chalk.
I would point out that, again, there'll be something that we're doing that may not get reciprocated by the school district for what they charge us to use their facilities whenever we need their fields and things like that. So as long as council is aware of that and is okay with that, then we as county administration will go investigate the possibilities of what we can do through our Parks and Rec program.
I think if we reach out and show a little collaboration, I would expect them to collaborate back. That's my expectation. And if not, some of us could put the heat on them to do that.
At the same time, Mr. Chairman, when we look at facilities, there are times when you have a public meeting and the school district has the better facility as far as holding a larger crowd. Mm-hmm. And, the community doesn't really understand why, because they're paying taxes on both. They can't have the use of that facility for the convenience of public meetings and stuff. So I'm hoping that, that conversation can happen and we can further a good relationship with the school district. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sharon.
Oh, she's got more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shannon, we're running out of time.
I know, I'm gonna just fly through I think,
Sorry, I pulled up Wood Brothers. I thought you were done.
While we're doing Ms. Luper, I just want to say I commend you for opening up those centers, and I'm hoping that we can improve those sites as we move programming in various communities and stuff. So.
yeah, I think Eric and Eric are working with getting that done, so.
Yeah.
Last thing, I was just gonna one of the things that we invested in this year and we're looking at investing in for the future is with our maintenance is our robots to cut each facility. These have the ability to cut up to an acre. We've started out with 6 sites. We're hoping that one of the things that it's going to do is eliminate the weeds with the cross contamination, because that mower will be specific to that site, so it won't go out, bring in the weeds and come back. So in the long run, we're hoping that not only will it save so that the guys can go out and do other things, but it'll save as far as the chemicals and stuff that we have to spray out to control the weeds. So,
the other thing that'll do is provide amusement to children who see it, because we used it with Sun City, and I was sitting at the ball field one day, and at dusk, the little critter comes out, and it's got eyeballs, and it looks like a little UFO eating the grass. It'll provide entertainment for children.
We have on Zoom, or do you want to introduce, let Hal and Mark come up with Wooden Partners. They've got the master plan, not complete, but it's getting there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman, members of council, staff. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. So excited to be working on this project and share with you guys the update. My name is Mark Baker. I'm with Wooden Partners. Also with us is Kyle Theodore with Wooden Partners, and we have online Nilay Bhatt with Next Practice. Thank you, Nilay, for joining us. What we're going to do today is walk you through sort of where we are today, give you an update on the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and then answer questions you may have. We're about, let's say, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the master planning process, but we wanted to give you an update today so that you could take these recommendations into consideration going forward. So, but basically what we're going to do today is talk about, first give you a little background about the consultant team, talk about the planning process. We've done a lot of work looking at the demographics in the county. We'll tell you a little bit about that. Community engagement, which included a number of public meetings as well as a public opinion survey. We'll share the results of that with you. And then talk about the park inventory, and facility assessment. Your staff has done a great job helping us with that. So thank you to Shannon and Chuck and others listening. And then later we're going to develop a level of service and equity mapping. We'll tell you a little bit about that process. And then wrap up with sports tourism and an economic assessment, and ultimately looking at recreation programs. And then we'll close the presentation with next steps. So first, Wooden Partners, we're a Southeast regional land planning and landscape architecture firm. We specialize in park and recreation planning design, not only physical parks, but county and citywide needs assessments. We're fortunate to be working on several parks in Beaufort County, Buckwalter, Oscar Fraser, Burton Wells, Whitehall Park, New Riverside. You've got a lot of exciting things happening in Beaufort County, and we're very pleased to be a partner with you on many of those. As well as park and recreation needsments throughout the Southeast, Charleston County, Columbia, Richland County, Augusta, Georgia, Richmond County. We just wrapped up one in Columbia County, Georgia, for the entire county, and then passive and active use recreation, which gives us our park design, so that gives us the foundation for understanding the master plan and the needs assessment work. I'd like Nilay to talk a little bit about Next Practice and Pros Consulting.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everybody. As he said, my name is Nilay Bhatt. I am the founder and CEO with Next Practice Partners. Also had the Pros Consulting team as a part of this in my previous role. Over the last 16 years, I've done a couple hundred of these plans all over the country, and have worked a lot with the Wooden Partners team as well. And so, happy to share our sort of national expertise to complement the regional expertise that Wooden Partners have as well. The next team on this as well is ETC Institute, and they are a statistically reliable survey firm. So the survey results we're about to show you, they independently administer that, gather the data, and they've done over 1,000 of these all over the country. So they are the leading expert when it comes to statistically valid surveys that truly represent the overall community.
Yeah, thank you, Nilay.
This is a quick snapshot logo-wise. These are just some of the places from Anchorage, Alaska to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and everything in between. With nationally accredited and gold medal agencies, our team has had a role in every one of these places that you see.
So we have a long-standing relationship with Neely and his team. Together with ETC, we're able to really bring a lot of examples of what communities are doing across the country to Beaufort County. So we're pleased to have that as a planning process. We start by looking at where you are today. Kyle's going to talk a lot about today the inventory of your existing facilities. We really analyze what you are and what's unique about Beaufort County. And then start talking about where and thinking about where you're going and where, what the outcome will be. And then we determine how do we get there. And so that's sort of in a nutshell. There are many stages of community engagement. One of these pieces is a website that's up and running now, right, Neely? You're muted.
If I had a penny for how many times I've spoken on mute, I could retire now. Yes, this is an ADA accessible and multilingual website. The community input information that we have as well, and just progress on the plan. We want to be as transparent as possible. So when all these reports are done, we will also be uploading them on the website so the community can see them at any time and see the progress of the plan as well.
If you haven't had a chance to log into the Play Beaufort County website, we would encourage you to do that. And take a look at the data that's being gathered there and also add your comments as you go forward. So demographic trends are a big part of the study. Neely, go ahead.
Sure. Looking at census data, you are one of the fastest growing counties and systems in the country. Just for context, nationally, the growth rate is about 0.7 to 0.8%. In general, barring this blip, and again, it seems more like an estimation than the reality that you see from 2022 to 2027. But the overall trajectory, if you see from 2010 to the 2020 census and the next 15 years, you are growing anywhere from 50 to 100% faster than national averages. So everything that I heard Shannon talk about earlier, everything I heard about you in the open space side as well, kudos for you all starting to think and plan ahead, because the people are coming and they love what they see in Beaufort County. That's why more of them want to be there. The other piece that I'm really encouraged to see you do is the senior programs that you just discussed as well, because as you see from the 8-segment standpoint, the yellow and the light blue on the extreme right, and I refuse to call them seniors, they don't behave like it. It's really an active adult population. That's going to be the single largest group in Beaufort County, and it's projected to be over 40% of the entire population, more than 2 out of 5 people in the county. Race and ethnically, there's a consistent sense of diversity, if you would. Over time, the African American population is reducing, and those that identify as 2 or more races continue to grow. And the Hispanic Latino population is about 13%, roughly 1 in 7 in the county as well. We also did income characteristics, and you know this, on a per capita individual basis, that's the blue bar. The orange is the household income, everybody living under the same roof. And both of those are higher than state and national averages, which is a good sign in terms of disposable income. But it also means what's good enough in most places is not good enough for Beaufort County, and there is certainly a higher expectation of quality. The next 3 slides are really about recreation participation trends. The red line is a national average of 100. Anything above that means it's higher than national average. Doesn't mean that's all people like to do in the county. It just means that's what people from the county like to do. So golf and tennis are both higher than national averages when it comes to general sports. The next one with fitness is much more prevalent as well. Anything from walking, swimming, Pilates, and weightlifting are all at or higher than national averages. And the next one is activity, with again a wide variety of different activities that are again higher than national averages. So in a nutshell, a growing community, aging, diverse and sort of staying steady in the diversification, higher than average income levels, and certain areas marginal growth in recreational participation. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Neely. So community engagement is a very important part of recreation master planning and needs assessments, and certainly has been integral in this study. We've conducted and hosted a number of public meetings at Buckwalter, Burton Wells, Dale, Scott, Lynn Brown. Great attendance at those centers. People didn't hold back. There's a lot of opinions in this community, and we heard and listened to that. For example, one of the things we heard was that you needed more seniors programming. Shannon's already heard that and taken action on that. So we'll continue to see action items come out of the input that we receive. And that's in addition to the public opinion surveys. So community engagement is both in person as well as digitally on the webpage and in person. In addition to that, we had a number of meetings with staff. We met with the Dubusky Island Council via Zoom. Beaufort County Sports Council gave us a lot of good information, and then the Park Advisory. So we asked the participants 3 questions. First, what are the strengths of the current offerings in Beaufort County Parks and Recreation System? And we probably have 20 different, 30 maybe different input level bullets from that, from those responses. Diversity in offerings. The county does a great job in offering a broadly diverse range of programs and activities and facilities. A lot of compliments on your staff for the work that's being done. Hardworking people really do everything they can to deliver high quality services. The fields are in good condition. Those 2 parks scored very well. Youth athletics and active sports got high marks from participants. And the scholarship, the recognition that there's scholarship availability for people to participate in those activities, and then partnerships with other groups. The second question we ask is, where are the opportunities for improvement? What can be done better? Honestly, some of the facilities are outdated and need to be updated. We know there's been a lot of deferred maintenance over the years, and people recognize that. Consider, consolidating some of the widely dispersed playing fields. You've got playing fields that are really in a very wide sort of geographic area and hard to program and offer services through. We'll come back to that when we get into recommendations for new facilities. Consider developing facilities that serve local residents that also serve as tournament facilities. You've got a great opportunity here to begin to think about offering some tournament sports. What are those, and how do you not compete with other tournament sites that exist? Now, honestly, there are a lot of tournament facilities already in the state of South Carolina, Georgia, that offer a lot of those services. More youth after-school activities, artificial turf. The county's already moving forward with that. We're currently planning adding artificial turf to Buckwalter Park. Increased offerings for seniors, and again, some of those actions are taking place now. Rural areas are underserved. A lot of the rural areas in Beaufort County are pretty far away, right? And the population has a lower level of density. So how do we serve those? And then add a northern Buckwalter type facility somewhere in the northern part of the county. And then we ask people, if you could just do one thing, what is the one thing you would do to improve park and recreation services and facilities in the county? And we got a wide range of answers there. Affordable programs for all. Convenient parks, less travel time. Well, that's difficult to do, right, in this county because of the geography and the creeks and streams and rivers that exist, the marshes. Develop fields with artificial turf. Develop a central aquatics facility. We thought that was, heard that on a number of occasions. Add programs for seniors, again, repeating that, and provide more programs for children. Open the centers up that are closed. I think we're beginning to see some of that take place in the county. And then customize services and facilities to reflect different needs for north of the Broad and south of the Broad recreation user pattern. Recognize that recreation user patterns are different. And then establish dedicated funding for those outlying areas. St. Helena, Ladies Island, Husky, et cetera. Next is parks and facility assessment. I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
And in addition to the data we gathered from public and community input, we also did physical assessment. It started with us visiting all of the active parks and facilities that Shannon is responsible for. I'll reiterate what Mark said.
that was very obvious to us is the impact that geography has on how recreation services can be provided to the communities. Because while you may be able to see something or it seems on a map like it's very nearby, you may have to, concern yourself with rivers, and streams, and marshes to be able to get from point A to point B. And that has a big effect on the ability to deliver recreation services. In addition, as I mentioned, the inventory, we went to each of the parks and facilities. We looked at its use. Is it lightly used, moderately used, heavily used? And what sort of condition is it in? Is it good, fair, or poor? Ranked each of the parks and facilities accordingly. We also looked at the quantities of things that are within each of the parks. How many ball fields, how many soccer fields, how many tennis courts.
I mean, playgrounds, benches, every little piece was counted.
So we collected all that information. And just as an overview, what we observed, as I mentioned, the geography plays a big role in how goods and services are able to be provided. That many facilities are old or damaged by storms and disrepair and need to be renovated or replaced. And some facilities are overused and they need to upgrade to everyday use. As I mentioned, the rural areas are underserved due to the geographic constraints that they are faced with. And in total, we looked at 42 properties and observed their amount of use, light, medium, or heavy, and whether they were in good, fair, or poor condition. The next step was to develop and recognize the park system that Beaufort County uses to services. And it consists of 5 park models. And Neela is going to talk more about those in a minute. The neighborhood park is the first and the smallest park type that's used by the county. It serves the surrounding neighborhood, and in many instances, it has a park community center as part of that. Some examples of neighborhood parks are Shell Park, Scott Community Center, or Bloomfield Park Center. The next largest park is the community park, and it introduces an active use component like a ball field or a soccer field or basketball into the mix. And some examples of community parks are Corson Tate Park, Bluffton Center, or Wesley Felix St. Helena Park. And then the largest is the regional park, and those are the type of parks that, as Mark mentioned earlier, folks may come to our area to partake in. So they serve the local constituents, but they also may draw folks from out of town. Examples of those are Burton Wells, Buckwalter Park, and Hospital Fraser Park. And then in terms of passive use parks, as Stephanie has hit on this evening, the natural or cultural resource park, that's the 4th park type. It's driven by the site or a unique natural resource, maybe a cultural resource. Examples of those are Whitehall Park, Crystal Lake Park, or the 2 forts, or Fremont, or Nevercastle Park. And lastly is the special purpose site, which are sites that don't fall into one of these previous categories. For the most part, they are single purpose or specialized facilities, such as senior centers, an aquatics facility, or tennis complexes. Some examples of those are the Bluffton or Beaufort Pool, Beaufort Tennis, Southside Tennis, or Wright Field Park in
So one of the next steps is to develop equity mapping. This is where we take all of the inventory and assessment work that Kyle just reviewed with you and locate them on a map, and then begin to apply the level of service in the park, the priority system, begin to see where those gaps are. And the equity mapping will help us match parks with population. And Neela, you want to make any additional comments regarding the equity map?
No, I think this goes back to the earlier discussion as well of quantity versus access. So I think the maps would also help you better define access and not just the quantity of amenities that you have.
And it begins to assess where there are gaps or where there are overlaps. So we'll have a decision making accordingly.
So just a quick, building on the park and facility inventory assessment, we also looked at the core program areas that Shannon and her team provide as well. And so these are some that we'll be providing recommendations for. And the idea really being that for future recommendations, the program needs from the community, as well as these trends, can help drive park and facility designs and recommendations. The critical element here, the public opinion survey, our goal was 300. The Beaufort community showed up, the county-wide community showed up in great numbers. We had over 350, which is wonderful. And all the stuff at the bottom really means that for anything to be statistically reliable, I can repeat the process, and 95 out of 100 times, the results you see are in a margin of error of plus or minus 5.2%. That's what makes this truly representative of your entire constituents and not just a vocal user group. So we asked them for usage. Nationally, this is 82%. Beaufort County is much higher for visitation into any parks or rec facilities over the last 2 years, which is great. We also asked them on the next slide about physical condition, and this is where only about 7% rated that as poor. Now, if I'm being nitpicky, what I will say though is the opportunity for the future is how do we reduce the number of people that say fair and good and grow the number of people that say excellent. Some of the work that Mark and Kyle and they're doing will obviously contribute to that, and there is more to come. In terms of rec programs and activities, the way people hear about it, word of mouth is the biggest, followed by social media, and Facebook is the largest for that, followed by the county website. How they want to hear, the number one way they prefer to find out about programs and activities is social by the county website and then emails. We're seeing more and more, at all ages, access to something that's online is definitely a preferred mechanism, and it's more cost effective. Recreation program participation, this is right at national average, 30. I think part of the hindrance is in the limited number of rec facilities that you have, or the spaces of some of them that really don't accommodate a much larger audience or a multi-generational audience that you would need. And so that's where we have the current participation numbers. In terms of quality, same thing. The really encouraging sign is only 4% have rated the quality as poor. The ones that come over, almost 80% have said it's good or excellent, which is wonderful. Again, let's grow the ones that say we're excellent and shrink the ones that say we're fair. This is a big piece, right? 54%. Nationally, this is one of the top 3 reasons. The largest is about, on average is 30%. 54% don't participate because they don't know what is being offered. The fact that you have so many new people coming in also contributes to that. And there needs to be an additional continued investment in marketing, storytelling, and a marketing branding plan as well. These are some of the next the critical questions, right? What are people most willing to fund? Connectivity and indoor aquatics, indoor recreation and aquatics make up the top 4 highest ones. The pool, of course, needs to be upgraded as well. We've talked about that. And then you can see new trails, walking, biking trails, indoor rec centers, and replacing the smaller, outdated ones are the top 4 priorities. Number 1 here, 29, almost 30 out of $100, they would want to focus on improve and maintain what exists, followed by acquiring new park land and open spaces. All the rest follow with indoor rec facility, renovating existing centers, and then new pool or aquatic facility as the next. In terms of value, about 17% are dissatisfied, 44% are satisfied or very satisfied, and a number are just neutral. I think there's opportunity for us to continue with all the investments you are making in the system to continue letting people see the value that they get through parks and recreation in Beaufort County. This is nationally a really encouraging trend. It's same as here as well. 50% of your respondents have said that in their minds, they value parks, trails, open spaces, recreation somewhat or significantly higher than they did before the pandemic. Only 7% feel the perception of value has reduced. So based on that, we asked them about funding, and a majority, 52%, would want to increase the funding for parks, recreation, trails, and open spaces. And I promise you, Shannon has not given me anything to say that, but this is really a huge, huge boost for the community, for people to not just say, I need something, but to say, I want to fund this as well, because they see this now as essential to quality of life and not just a nice to have amenity. So these are really encouraging signs, and the priorities they have are a number of them. From natural areas, I know you're investing in boat ramps, canoe kayak launches as well, which is wonderful. Trails, paved hiking, biking, walking, nature center, all of those are very, very high priorities across the county, as well as indoor aquatics, fishing areas, shooting ranges, off-leash dog parks, unpaved hiking, walking, jogging tracks, community gardens, amphitheaters, senior centers, outdoor aquatic facility, gym and indoor rec, community centers, and splash pads. All of these are very high priorities. And picnic shelters and pickleball are right below on the high end of the medium priorities. So a lot of it, you're on the right track. Programmatically, as you can see, the top 4 of the top 5, and in some ways actually even the day trips, all of these are looking at adult or senior focused programs, because that's where the community population is growing. And that's where they have a larger unmet need, because the ones that are low priority are ones that are met to a much higher degree now across the county, which are a lot of the youth sports and different individual sporting programs. So that in a nutshell is the overarching survey results. I know we've gone through a lot very, very fast as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Nilay.
Yeah.
These two charts are what we call the PIR charts, Priority Investment Ranking. These two charts are going to form the foundation for going forward, and it's a sort of outcome in the compression of all of the survey data to begin to indicate where those priorities are highest, and that'll help inform our work as we begin to combine the input from the public opinion survey together with the maps, and look at priority gaps, look at gaps in the recreation services and the assessment facilities, and we'll take that and move forward with the next steps. So next steps is that we're going to finalize the sports tourism strategy assessment. We're going to look at the short and long-term recommendations using all of the information that we've just reviewed. And then the end result of that will be to assign capital improvement cost to each of those items, so that when we bring back to you, you'll not only have the recommendations in the backing of the public opinion survey, the level of servant assessment, and the mapping, and then you'll have the cost. And then we'll put all that together and develop the vision and action plan and the final report. So what we'd like to do now is open it up for any questions you have of Kyle or myself or Nilay.
Will your report done in sufficient time for us to plan for this budget year coming up for any
ask
expenditures that we want to make?
Question or
so it's my understanding within about the next 60 days.
60 to 90.
So it's been indicated to us that between 60 and 90 days, the plan will be complete. A lot of these are long-range capital investments. What you've already been given with the immediate needs are sort of the priorities. This would be more of a long-range or alternate funding, which is what Jared was talking about, because these needs get into many, many millions of dollars over years. So this is going to be sort of the GPS, the guiding system for us moving forward. Will it be ready before we get into first, second, third reading? Probably yes, but whether it will really affect what we're going to ask for the next fiscal year, probably not as much as what's already been described.
So your short-term goals are.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm glad you said that, Mr. Atkinson. I've been waiting for this study for some time to further improve in the rural community recreational program, and now I'm hearing that it's not going to be ready. Recommendations about the rural community may take another year or so to hit the budget cycle. You know, I'm sort of disappointed, to say the least, because I've been hoping for something for my community, and that's been there for the last 5 years. Recreational services. I understand that things are coming up, and that's fine, but I need to have a sit-down talk with staff, I guess, to see exactly what is being planned for my community as it relates to recreation activities out there in the community. So I just say that, but I'm looking forward to the report. I am looking forward to the report because I'm hoping for some direction as far as recreation way out into the future. You're just not addressing the immediate needs that we've been trying to ascertain for St. Helena. So with that, if you want to comment, you can go ahead and comment. I do have a question about one of the recreational activity that's very popular in northern Beaufort as well as in southern Beaufort is skate parks. And southern Beaufort has skate parks. Northern Beaufort, as far as the county is concerned, doesn't have skate parks, but there is a skate park in Port Royal. Are y'all looking at
I don't believe that
collaboration in Port Royal?
Doesn't that activity show up, Nile, on our priority investment ranking?
Yeah, it's in the low priority list in the survey.
You know, it's not uncommon for some of those activities that have a smaller segment of the population to show up in the lower priority list. And then it's up to the county to begin to evaluate, you know, what you believe those needs are. But in terms of the overall, that one is showing up.
I probably can tell you that the skateboarders who were probably younger kids were not at that public meeting, like the pickleball group that was there.
They were there, yes,
yeah,
sir.
they were there.
Right.
So,
Yes, sir,
but
no doubt.
that skateboarding is really a popular thing south of the Broad in the Buckwalter community. There is the skateboard park there. It's a county park. It's really actively being used. And the Port Royal one is also very active, but it needs a little bit of upgrading and stuff. I'm just
thank you.
wondering whether those are things that we consider. That's all.
We'll make note of that. Thank you for the input.
Mr. Chairman, could you back up one slide, please? I'm looking at that's the one. So if I'm looking at this, if I'm reading it right, in your low priorities, green, look at the ones on the bottom. Softball program, football program, volleyball, you're saying those are very low priorities, and then I'm going up and I see golf lessons and leagues are a higher priority. Do we have any golf courses in Beaufort County that I missed that we own? So I don't understand golf in there. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport, as you just said, but it's in the blue, not the red. So I'm a little confused by this chart.
Yeah, I'll let Nile talk a little bit about the priority.
Sure. So this chart's a combination of two things. What is important to people, and from that, what's an unmet need. The sports programs you see are really important. They are a much lower unmet need. The pickleball ones, if you see on the previous one, these are pickleball programs, but if you go one chart back, pickleball is almost high priority. It is literally the second highest and the medium priority for pickleball courts. So that is among the highest numbers I've seen for pickleball, when 5 years ago, it wasn't on the radar. So I would guarantee 5 years from now, if you do it again, it's going to get even higher. So the trajectory is trending upwards. In this case, this is a more physical infrastructure focused priority, and you can see The elements that are much higher, golf courses are not that high here. Golf courses is very much in the middle to the lower end. What is high is trails and connectivity, open spaces, boat ramps, canoe kayaking, docks, centers, and senior centers. So the reason I see more of those also is, like we talked about your demographics, there is a larger over 55 population than there is an under 18 population, which is also why in many of the sports activities, though there is an active participation group, over time, that portion of the population is not growing the same way as your 55 plus population is growing, which is what is influencing many of the high priorities you see here.
The other thing we're going to do is when we look at the mapping, we look at the gaps and we look at distribution. One of the things we found is that you do have a lot of ball fields in the county, but they're not programmed activities and they're more rural in character. So how do you deliver youth athletics in those areas? So when we can begin to look at the gap analysis and analyze what your current enrollment and engagement in those programs are, we can begin to forecast out what those needs will be. This is one part of the process. We'll begin to factor all of it in as we go along. Other question?
Yes, I have a question for you. I think you said 351 people participated in the study. Is that correct?
The survey.
In the survey, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I know you can't make people participate, but is that a good cross-section of a population of almost 200,000 to actually get an accurate report and generate that?
It is. So ETC, the survey firm, they get a 10 to 15% response rate. So they send this to maybe 3,000 or 4,000 households. For that size, 350 is a statistically reliable sample because they are ensuring that the survey sample closely aligns with the demographics of Beaufort County. So in the entire survey report, you'll see it's a pretty even gender split. It's a pretty distributed age segments as well. And the race and ethnic profile also matches the larger county demographics. That's what makes it more representative of your constituents and the larger community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
We are wrapping up for today. I took notes. I have 5 takeaways from today. During our conversations today, the following topics said administration needs, where does county want to sit with the following? Surplus. Where do we think surplus should be based upon the surplus we've had over the last couple of years and projecting for the future? Second, we want to do something with our personnel. You heard statistics about the number of personnel we have, how we're attracting them, how we're keeping them, and they think it is a COLA merit combination. We need to weigh in on that. Third, millage. Millage is the key to raising taxes. What do we want the millage to be? What does a mill equate to? That will be discussed further. We're not going to make these decisions tonight because we have more information to come tomorrow, but that's a key element. Number 4, Parks and Recreation. You just heard this. You've heard about Parks and Recreation from our staff. You've heard about our active parks, our other parks, our centers. What are we going to do for the future? And dealing with our Board of Education as far as what is an equitable distribution of usage of them and paying for the usage of them. We can't give them everything for free and they charge us. That's not equitable. Finally, we know that there are expenditures from the general fund to outside entities. We want to know exactly what we're getting for the money we're giving them. So a letter is going to go out from us that says we want some specificity for the dollar amounts. We know some of them are based upon millage only, and others are going to be provided in our general budget. But for the dollars we're giving, we'll want to know exactly what we're getting. So those are the 5 takeaways I had from here. Is there anyone else that had something specific? Okay, so tomorrow, we're going to have more information. Again, we're not going to solve this tomorrow either. It is a direction for our administrative staff to begin to put together what they believe on the basis of what we're going to tell them about these 5 things in particular, what a budget's going to look like. And I said in my opening remarks, this is not a one-year deal. This is the first year of the next 4 years of this council that was elected with specificity to meet the needs to have a quality of life that we deserve in this county. We all said we came here for a reason, and they're all great reasons. We all want to maintain that and grow, because we're going to grow, but the right way. So it's the first year of a multi-year plan. With that, is there any other thing to come before us?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The last cycle of council, some of us were assigned different agencies
Yes.
as liaison.
Yes, and we're going to
I just want to, thank you, sir.
discuss that. That's coming up. We have a whole bunch of them that we have to fill, but I'm getting some information from those particular agencies about the number, because that has changed in the past.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
If there is no further action, we are adjourned.